Friday right here on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gustav with your headlines. This morning, the Madison Professional Police Officers Association issued a vote of no confidence in Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway. The MPPOA is the police union in Madison and says 95% of its members participated in the confidence vote. In 2019, the union endorsed Rhodes Conway for mayor. However, the union claims she has created an us versus them polarity. The statement from the MPPOA ended with a promise of its members' commitment to do a better job of fostering a positive relationship with the public. Highs today in the mid-80s with partly cloudy skies, overnight lows in the mid-60s. Tuesday, highs once again in the mid-80s with partly cloudy skies. Wednesday, highs in the low 80s with sunny skies. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Monday. I know I knew the point. I'm so excited. I gotta let the enthusiasm out.
You're supposed to use your thumbs, man. Don't you know that?
It's back to work time. No, man, you do whatever you gotta do with your thumb. Mostly jamming it up your nether regions, I suspect.
Oh, man, that's how you get around, man. Little thumb, little leg. Hey, Crudy, welcome back to Milwaukee, man.
Have you ever hitchhiked?
No. I've never hitchhiked and, got picked up by a stranger.
Or cash.
Nobody rides for free. No, man, we're a little too young for that.
Too pretty for hitchhiking.
The good old days. My uncle actually hitchhiked from Detroit all the way to Stevensville, Wisconsin, outside of the Fox Valley. Hitchhiked the whole way. Found a trucker, got dropped off bottom of the hill.
You know what wrecked hitchhiking? That show on HBO, The Hitchhiker. No one ever hitchhiked again. That, in fact, no one would pick you up now. You have to call an Uber.
Well, nowadays, man, I'm not letting anybody in my car with the COVID going on, man. That's never happening.
Did you have a nice weekend, Dom?
I did.
I truly enjoyed the 72 hours of Major League Baseball.
Did you watch any?
Oh, I watched a lot of baseball. Oh, I'm a baseball guy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you sat inside in this beautiful weather?
I alternated between listening to Euchre on one of my competitors' radio stations, and I watched some Fox Sports 1 as well. Watched 2 games and listened to the other game. So I caught all 3 Brewer games. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I only caught 2 of them, but I got a lot of those 2 games.
No, I thought you were at a lake hanging out, but did you have a television?
We can't hear a radio at the lake?
Did you stream it on your phone? I mean, how did you engage?
I've mentioned this before. We got friends. They got a cabin. My father-in-law's got a cabin, like camper-style cabin. And, not hoity-toity, but, working folks' cabin, a camper. And so we go out to...
Well, camper is not a cabin. I mean, a cabin...
I know. Okay. I'm drawing the distinction.
Yeah, one has wheels, the other one does not. And I'm not an up-north guy. I'm just telling you what I know.
This one probably has a VIN number. I'm just saying. So anyways, they've got a nice spot, though, and they've got a lake and a pool and all that kind of stuff at this camping ground. But no internet. Very little to no internet.
All right.
Sat out, sweltered my you-know-what's off all Saturday.
Beautiful.
Yes, I enjoyed the day, but no internet. Turned the phone off. First time in months. I've even, literally turned my phone off, turned it off for the day. Knew I wasn't getting internet anyways. Didn't want to take your phone calls. Crudy, I'm lonely. I miss you on the weekends.
Yeah, how often is
You
that
know how it
happen?
goes.
Yeah. Hey, it's late, Crudy. What are you doing?
You are like persona non grata from Friday at 6:02 on. So baseball.
You listen to some baseball. Watch some
A
baseball.
lot of baseball.
Catching up was. I mean, what was it? What did it look like? What would they do at the stand? Were there fake sounds? Were there
lot of fake
mannequins in the stands?
Friday night's game, right? Friday night, the opener of the season.
The
Brian?
Cubs. Brian, you're a Cubs fan. Did you watch any
Yeah,
of that?
so the Cubs have the organ going still, so it still sounds, burp, 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 burp. But you also have sounds, fake sounds. You have the crowd cheering whenever when Ian Happ hit that 2-run home run which made the difference in the first game. There was cheering and crowd noises and stuff like that.
Brewers lost the first game shutout.
Yeah, but then the second game when the Brewers, the cool thing was when the Brewers hit a bunch of home runs, I believe someone dinged one right off the foul pole, and you could hear the people from the dugout screaming about it, and that was actually more entertaining than hearing the crowd roar because you could hear all the individual players razzing the guy who just hit a home run off the foul pole. It was really cool. So there's some cool stuff, and then there's some there's nobody there.
So visually, they didn't put any,
Fox did, of course.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Fox.
I didn't watch. I watched the Fox Sports 1. They did not have bodies in the stands, near as I could tell.
Certain different angles they would fill in with fill-in people, and some folks were sending out memes. No social distancing at games, and it's just fake crowds.
So
and stuff like that.
so you guys watched it. Did it impact the entertainment, the game for you at all, knowing that there was no crowd there, and what you did hear was being made up? Did it
I'm
matter?
completely biased. I'm a baseball nut. If they put themselves all in one city and played 4,000 games a day, I'd try and watch at least half of them.
The thing that bothered me the most is they lost twice to the Cubs.
It was fantastic. It was a great game.
Some say. Others felt like it was a disappointing opening weekend.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, because it's probably over, man.
I really like I like the moment when Anthony Rizzo he gave Arcia a little bit of sanitizer at first base. He pulled out his little hand sanitizer from his pocket and just
Shared a
dropped it
little
on
bit.
Arcia's. Yeah,
Yeah, nice.
Gave him a squirt.
he's the only one. He's the only Brewer that got a hit on Friday. All three of them, actually.
3, yeah. Not
First time that's ever happened, by the way.
not an auspicious start to the season for the Brewers bats.
But what a hell of an ending to the season.
Well, they lost again yesterday. They were pretty ice cold yesterday as well. And so they lost the rubber match of the series. And not only did they get to fly the W in Chicago, now we understand what most of the Marlins players have the COVID. The Miami Marlins. They, as Brian describes them, a AAA team playing in the major leagues, but they still wrecked it. I mean, now the season is in jeopardy. And I got to tell you, man, no movies, no concerts, no baseball. And of course, if there's no baseball, Dom, there ain't going to be no football. And that is a fate worse than Trump's reelection. Damn near.
Bob Nightingale reporting at the USA Today. I found this one at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. It took 4 months for the Major League Baseball season to start. And now, just 72 hours into it, the baseball of the season could be abruptly ending. Commissioner Rob Manfred must decide whether to delay the 2020 season, postpone it until further notice, or simply hope the Miami Marlins outbreak is an isolated case. For now, Major League Baseball postponed 2 games scheduled for Monday night, the Marlins home game against the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Yankees game in Philadelphia versus the Phillies. The Marlins have had at least 14 players and staff members who have tested positive for COVID-19.
They go clubbing on South Beach? I mean, how does the whole team have COVID?
I hear it's really contagious. And the team canceled their flight home from Philly after playing 3 games there this weekend. It's currently unknown how the outbreak occurred with the Marlins, who played exhibition games in Atlanta before traveling to Philadelphia. As of Monday morning, the remaining games scheduled for the day were to be played as scheduled, according to baseball officials with knowledge of the plans. The outbreak, particularly this early in the 60-game season, is baseball's worst nightmare.
And Brian and Crudy's.
There were only 9 players who tested positive throughout all of baseball in the past 2 weeks, and just 29 players and staff members have tested positive since baseball restarted. But the litmus test was always going to be how healthy teams could stay once they started to travel. Well, just after 3 days, the answer is ominous. The games will go on for now, but Major League Baseball has no choice but to be on high alert and cancel further games if there is even a scent of an outbreak. Now, check this out. This is a little amazing to me. In hindsight, Crudy, Brian, Major League Baseball never should have permitted the Marlins to take the field Sunday against the Phillies at Citizen Bank Park after 3 players tested positive for COVID-19 just 2 days after another player tested positive. What? Marlins manager Don Mattingly said the team never considered not playing, but it is now clear that was a mistake and has put the entire season in jeopardy.
Rubbing dirt on it didn't work?
Apparently not. Now we'll
Don
see.
Mattingly, former Yankee. Didn't they call him Mr. Baseball for a while?
Now
Called Mr. Overrated. But either way,
we'll see if any members of the Phillies test positive after being on the same field at Citizens Bank Park. Here's a quote. Phillies manager Joe Girardi, "We sent a text out to our players and made sure that they knew what was going on. We're constantly reminding the guys. I mean, you have to be safe. You can't really have a lot of contact with other people because you put everybody in danger. No wonder why Phillies star outfielder Bryce Harper wore a mask on the field for the first time." A little bit more here. Certainly the Marlins outbreak is creating fear throughout the industry. How many more players will now opt out? Will Los Angeles star Mike Trout, the face of the game, opt out with his wife expecting their first child on August 3rd? If Trout doesn't play, how many will follow? Mattingly also said this: they can honestly refuse to play, right? Everyone could opt out today. Again, I think we're getting down the road, but I think there are discussions.
I think I mischaracterized Don Mattingly's nicknames. He had 2 of them primarily. He was either Donnie Baseball or he was the Hitman.
I think it's fair to say that guys are concerned about things and they want their feelings to be heard. I think that's fair. We're talking about health, traveling back to their homes and their families and their kids. It's a reason we want to be safe. They have a voice. Mattingly said, "You can't blame Major League Baseball and the Players Association for trying. Everyone wanted to see this work. The players, the owners, the fans, TV networks, and Crudy and Brian. Yet no matter how much the safety measures and procedures are followed, no matter how many tests are given, every other day, COVID refuses to be stopped. The baseball season is at a crossroads. It shouldn't be canceled yet, but it's day to day. One more team outbreak, and it may be impossible, if not irresponsible, to continue. The ugliest words in baseball are now hovering over the entire industry. Wait till next year."
Don Mattingly, the Hitman, perhaps a double entendre behind that nickname.
Right.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Some say the greatest radio show ever.
Sports Talk Live?
Sports Talk Live, what do you got for us? You better dial us up right now. We've only got one line like I did in college when I did Sports Talk Live. Not with you.
No, not with me.
Runkle. Miss your Runkle. When I had a good co-host. Come back with us. Many lines to choose from if you dial them up. Talk a little baseball, some COVID, some Trump. 844-967-2789.
Look at me, gotta be Santa Theo.
A man stands alone at a plate. This is the time for what? For individual achievement. There he stands alone. But in the field, what? Part of a team.
There's no crying in baseball!
So relax, let's have some fun out here. This game's fun, okay?
Up your butt, Joe Boo.
Don't send in those absentee ballots just yet. Talk 1017 FM is broadcasting forums for you to hear all about candidates running to represent Milwaukee. Thursday, August 6th, meet the candidates running to represent Assembly District 17, previously held by Representative David Crowley. Tune in Friday, August 7th to hear from the candidates running for the 8th Assembly District, Representative Joe Casas-Amaripa's previous seat. Both nights, the forums will be broadcasted from 7 to 8 p.m. exclusively on Talk 1017 FM.
It's the Mortal Kombat soundtrack.
Talk1017fm.com.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's the Stephanie Miller Show from 8 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's the Earl Ingram Show. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. At 6, it's Busted Pencils, Whis Cannabis Radio, and Maggie Dawn. And at 7, it's Democracy Now! Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
Milwaukee, join me, Alan Robinson, Wednesday evenings for my new show, Whis Cannabis Radio. We're setting the record straight on cannabis in Wisconsin. Follow me at Wisco Cannabis and listen live Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. right here on Talk 1017 FM.
Hey guys, I'm Maggie Dawn, your lady lawyer, legal eagle, and sensei of economics. Tune into my show, Dawn of the Resistance, live Thursdays and Fridays from 6 to 7 on WRRD 1510 AM. Always streaming live at newstalk1510am.com.
The Devil's Advocates are live weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Thanks for the job you do. It sure showed in the Supreme Court.
But I just want to thank you guys for your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't get enough credit for this. We've never had a voice ever in this state.
So I think you guys really need to take a bow.
Thanks again for your work. It's really important.
You need these guys. They're there for all of us.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you. Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Talk 1017 FM and WRD 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Political Talk.
This is the last time this year. So let me hear you. Good and loud. All right, Gary. A one. A two. A three. Take me out to the...
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And a beer.
I kind of feel like I need a beer to sing this song with this man.
You don't have to sing, just talk.
Root, root, root.
Croot, croot, croot.
Strikes. Leo. Yeah. Hey! That might be the last time you hear that this year.
Very well could be. Here's some breaking news that the Journal-Sentinel just hit 1 minute ago.
Ooh.
With the number of positive COVID-19 cases growing in Wisconsin, the state will be added to Chicago's emergency travel order list this Friday.
What?
More places Wisconsinites are banned.
We can't go to Chicago now?
Apparently not. Wasn't going anyways. No ball games. None that I could attend. Quick.
Now, is that Chicago or what about
Chicago.
what about like the metro area? I mean, there's some,
There's
some
some
come stores.
There's some weed dispensaries between here and the Metro, Dom. You'll find a spot.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
I have a birthday to plan. Can they come here?
Not at all clear. Maybe we'll jump into that article in a minute, but here's the real news. The Menominee Falls Little League has suspended its season.
Oh, man.
For at least a week after players and coaches contracted the coronavirus, according to its league president. Menominee Falls Little League president Kristen Lauer announced the suspension of the league's Facebook page July 23rd. Well, I think they mean the sports, not the Facebook page. Lauer said players and coaches in multiple divisions tested positive for COVID-19.
Ugh.
She said the decision is also in light of Menominee Falls High School suspending its summer athletics and other baseball organizations, canceling their seasons because of the coronavirus. Here's a quick quote. We ask that during the suspension, you limit contact with members outside your family, continue to practice social distancing and your curveballs, and follow the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommendations for minimizing exposure. We are making the decision based on the responsibility we have to family and communities. With an absolute abundance of caution, we are taking this step. Now, Dom, the league hasn't said how many players or coaches or umpires might have actually contracted the COVID, but apparently a substantial number.
You're talking about the Little League here
in Little
Menominee
Leagues.
Falls. Okay.
They could extend that suspension, but here is the important part. Waukesha County, where Menominee Falls is at, of course, has seen a sharp increase in coronavirus cases in July, setting 4 daily records last week, according to data from the Waukesha County Public Health Department. The 144 coronavirus cases was a daily record on Friday. That's 144 on Friday in Waukesha County. And there have been 399 coronavirus cases among 10 to 19-year-olds in the county. The 4th highest age bracket for positive tests. The young people in Waukesha not having the same problem we do in Nain County. It's not the 20 to 29-year-olds or even the 30 to 39s. It's the 40s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the little leaguers between 10 and 19 years old. The bar crowd's not doing it to Waukesha, not in the same way they are to many parts of the state.
Wow. It's crazy.
Little League suspended. Major League Baseball teetering on the brink.
Little League. Crudy, hell, you were going for MVP this year, weren't you? 844-967-2789.
We're long since done with Coach Pitch.
Mary from Tosa, welcome to Sports Talk Live. What do you got for us?
Oh, hey, nothing on sports here, but
all right.
I've got a story that relates to the life-saving ability of mask wearing that you might be interested in. In September 2002, I had my bike flown to New York City, and I joined a group called World Team Sports to do a September 11th memorial bike ride. People from all over the country and even some from around the world took part. So in the small group that I biked with, there was an attorney, and he was on the top floor of one of the towers when it got hit, along with some other people up there. So they had a huge challenge coming down to safety. And this man had the presence of mind to grab some coffee filters that they put over their faces to breathe through, and he said he believed those filters saved their lives.
Wow.
Now, granted, there's a difference between coffee filters protecting you from smoke and masks and the COVID, but I think there's some relation here.
Mary, good story. Appreciate you listening today and sharing with us at 844-967-2789, but not prepared to move beyond sports talk quite yet, Tom.
There's more?
There's
wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. The President of the United States claimed he had been invited to throw out the first pitch August 15th at the Yankees game. And I don't know if you noticed, Tom, but the entire Yankee team kneeled down before the national anthem the other night. And Trump's taken some issue with that, as did apparently Mike Ditka. Kind of came off as a bit of a racist, that one. Mike Ditka, and of course Donald Trump, sort of cut from the same cloth. But Trump apparently now is backing out of throwing out the first pitch. I think he saw Fauci and said, oh, God, it could be really ugly.
Fauci did not throw a great pitch.
No, Fauci threw one, basically hit the bull.
He just didn't want anyone to catch anything.
Just a bit outside.
He can't help it, man.
Fauci's first pitch was somewhere down the first baseline, quite a bit away from home plate.
Well, that's why he's not a pitcher.
He claimed he hadn't thrown a ball in years and had been warming up and kind of threw out his arm the day before. I don't know what Trump's excuse would have been. Bone spurs, perhaps.
Well, no, man. He's working on the China virus. Didn't you see his tweet? That's how he refers to it. And, of course, the economy and many, 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 many other things.
You mean like golfing with former Packer Brett Favre?
See? That would have been you.
Come back with us. 7th inning stretch is upon us.
I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. Let's do it.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
I'm Stephanie Hoff, your host, and this podcast is brought to you by Spectrum. Wisconsin Dem Attorney General Josh Kaul said federal agents slated to come to Milwaukee cannot attack peaceful protesters. He held out the possibility of taking legal action if they do. Pat Pavletti is on the line with me today for more on Call's message to the Trump administration.
Yeah, Stephanie, and I think the distinction to be drawn here is between what's happening in Portland, Oregon, and in a couple other cities that are seeing federal deployment. Now, what Milwaukee is potentially in for is an expansion of something the federal government is calling Operation Legend. Now, we've seen in other cities, Dem leaders, let's take Chicago, for instance, with Mayor Lori Lightfoot, has rejected the notion of these agents coming in and being involved with suppressing protests. As with Call, he's kind of has the same message here. So specifically, he was asked about the situation in Portland, and this is what he said on the Upfront program, which is, of course, produced in partnership with WisPolitics.com.
That cannot happen in Wisconsin. And if it does happen, I'm going to be speaking out and I'm going to be taking any appropriate legal action. Now, if federal agents are really coming to work collaboratively with local law enforcement and they're going to be transparent about what their plans are, I'm certainly happy to work together with them to work to reduce violent crime. But we're going to watch this closely and see how things unfold.
And more on deliberate intent. In another segment, the chairman of the Fond du Lac County Republican Party explained he is countering President Trump's claims that voting by mail will lead to a rigged or corrupt election. Has he been opposed yet by party leaders? I mean, how did he back that one up?
Well, this is something from Ron Bishop of Waupun, and I've actually seen some party leaders and Capitol insiders, quite frankly, agree with this. And essentially, I wrote about this last week, and one of the things I heard from Capitol insiders is there's a real danger here that President Trump is suppressing his own base. Looking at the statistics coming from the April 7th election, which at this moment is the only data point that we have when it comes to looking at how a statewide election would be conducted during a pandemic, roughly 80% of all absentee ballots were done by mail. So if those numbers hold, essentially voting by mail and voting absentee will be synonymous. Now, President Trump has tried to draw some distinction between the two. That's not going to be the case in Wisconsin if those statistics hold. So what Bishop's trying to do is promote Wisconsin's vote-by-mail system as safe and convenient and easy to do. We also saw some heavy hitters from the GOP jump into a bipartisan coalition last week, kind of looking along the same thing. And I think it's kind of reflective of this growing fear within the Republican Party, specifically here in Wisconsin, that President Trump could be essentially telling people, don't vote this way, and if they don't vote this way, there's a chance that they just don't vote at all. And that's trouble for Republicans up and down the ticket, not just the president.
Thanks, Pat, for giving us the rundown from the Upfront program, again, produced in partnership with WisPolitics.com. And you can listen to these segments on WISN.com. Until tomorrow, I'm Stephanie Hoff. Thanks for tuning in.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit WisPolitics.com.
You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
Sometimes kids play with pretend guns. It's up to us to make sure they don't play with real ones. Keep yours stored locked and unloaded. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Supplying your political fix in the back roads from Horicon to McGuanago on WRRD 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Political Talk.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we were talking about Donald Trump, and he was supposed to, throw out a first pitch. And that was supposed to happen at the New York Yankees game on August 15th, and now he's already begging off. But before we talk about that, Brett Favre golfing with Donald Trump this weekend. I would have made the same decision.
The Minnesota Viking great.
Hall of Famer winning his Packer, man. Don't even start.
What? Wait, that was New Jersey? Jets, right? No.
Well, when he was texting off pictures of his junk, he was on the Jets.
And now he's just posting pictures of his junk with, the president's a junk. I can't say that, right? We can't say, all right, Brian, you did it so much better, I know. So, yes, still similar offensive pictures, but now he's just standing next to President Trump. Now, we had this conversation, was that last Friday?
It wasn't long ago.
Would you golf with Donald Trump?
And I said I would for the competitive nature of the event.
And I said,
I'd try to beat his ass.
No, absolutely not. I would interview the man, but I would not socialize. I would not golf. I would not party with the man.
So you claim. But I would. And Brett Favre did.
Yeah? And what do you think about this?
I have socialized briefly with Brett Favre as well. Do you want to hear my Brett Favre stories harkening back to sports talk days?
Oh, didn't you see a tattoo on his butt?
He does have a tattoo on his left cheek. Ironically, for those wondering, it's a devil.
Ooh, see? It's all coming together now, man. The universe works in mysterious ways.
You know, pre-COVID, I split a bag with peanut M&Ms with the Hall of Famer. Stuck at an interview at his locker and got surrounded by a bunch of camera people, and his wife Deanne gave him a bag, and he and I ate it together. So that's my Brett Favre story. That he's got a devil tattooed on his left cheek. Now, there's another prominent tattoo. He's got the Superman tattoo, I believe. He, Frank Winters, and Mark Chmura all sported the matching Superman tattoos.
Yeah, those guys.
Those guys.
Yeah, I mean...
do you ever think they displayed any locker room talk?
I'm pretty sure they did. If they were hanging out in the Appleton area, I was thinking I was living back there back then. There was a lot of partying going on in
Trump's
the lower
kind of guy.
bars of off of College Avenue. Those guys were partiers for sure. I mean, but small state of Wisconsin, couple of stars.
Wasn't Chmura hot tubbing at a prom party one night?
Yeah, he got in trouble for that. But, I mean, if you look at, the mentality that Favre had, sending out pictures of his junk, and the mentality that Trump has, oh, man, these two guys, two peas in a pod. Let's see the reporting from J.D. Radcliffe at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Let's see. TMJ4's Charles Benson quoted White House Deputy Communications Director Brian Morgenstern as saying, quote, "Today, President Trump played golf with legendary Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. They discussed the importance of sports as a critical, unifying, and uplifting part of the safe reopening of America."
Now, I'm going to give Brett Favre credit for this. A, he's a Hall of Famer, so shut up. And B, recently, Favre acknowledged Colin Kaepernick and said he was a hero. Who was the guy from the Cardinals that joined the Army and died?
Tillman.
Well, to my understanding, Favre analogized Kaepernick, the courage he showed to joining the military, leaving the NFL post 9/11 to join and die. Well, perhaps not a act of the ultimate sacrifice yet for Kaepernick, but let's give Brett Favre a little bit of credit for acknowledging that. And who do you think has more sway with a guy like Trump? Brett Favre, do you think they talked about a circumstance like that? Do you think Brett Favre took the opportunity somewhere in the 4.5 hours to say, hey, why don't you back off, fat man?
No, I don't. I mean,
stop kicking my ball into the sand trap.
I mean, I imagine there was a lot of locker room talk going on, man. I'm not clear that either
Trump's
one of these guys
about his daughter?
I'm pretty sure they're both telling stories. I'm not clear that either one of these men are too deep. While I can appreciate the reporting that Favre goes about Kaepernick, it doesn't take away from their own transgressions, let's call it. But let's focus on the quote from the White House Deputy Communications Director. They discussed the importance of sports as a critical, unifying, and uplifting part of the safe reopening of America. We've had sports on. We've had baseball for 72 hours. And we have a massive infection that could, we don't know yet, hasn't yet, cancel that entire season before it even barely starts.
Maybe they should have done like the NBA. Be bubble boys. Stay in a bubble. Keep your entire league in a bubble. Baseball could have done that for 60 days. Hell, it's what, a 2.5-month season? They could have pulled it off. Who needs to see your family for 2.5 months?
But how... if sports are
important,
unifying and uplifting part of the safe reopening. We don't have a safe reopening. This whole thing is just I'm not going to say a scam, but it's whitewashed. We're living in a fantasy land, man. We should be shutting this whole thing down, starting over entirely and doing it right. This is a disaster.
You're dreaming, Ralph Nader. It ain't never going to happen. Not when this guy, talking about Trump, thinks not only do we need to reopen the seasons, of course. I mean, he's been golfing the whole time, right? So he's got his sports fix, but he's an NFL guy primarily, and he's going to want the NFL to get his, brutal sports fix like many of us do. But I would think that ultimately, Donald Trump's never going to close the economy. I mean, you can't even get Republicans to agree to extend unemployment benefits in the midst of an international pandemic. The $600 a week, that's expired now. And Republicans, in all their generosity, maybe 100, maybe 200, we'll see. We'll see. And of course, John Lewis lying in state at the Capitol and Trump leaving D.C. purposefully. Not that anyone wanted him at the funeral of John Lewis, but he left town on purpose just so he didn't have to make an awkward appearance.
Answer the questions, be part of the conversation. Of course, he's part of the problem. All right, well, so you don't think let's just
Trump would never agree to a re-shutdown.
I'm not clear that that's the case. I mean, we get much more how many more infections do you think it's going to take? I mean, if it's not 140, 150,000?
All of us.
Everybody.
We would all have to have COVID-19, and then he would say herd immunity. No, there's no freaking way. I mean, if Donald Trump had taken a differing tact, and it's scary to think, but Donald Trump could have taken an entirely different tact, and we as a nation might be well on our way, like many other industrialized nations are, to a real reopening, a safe reopening. Let's put it that way. But of course, we're not. We're not even close. And to think that Donald Trump could have led on this issue. He could have done this 5 months ago. Suddenly he's seeing his internal polling. He's seeing his external polling. He's realizing he's getting his ass handed to him. But it didn't have to be that way. Just a modicum of leadership. And the man probably would be perched to be reelected president of the United States. That's all it would have taken. Just a modicum of leadership on this topic. Instead of 150,000 dead Americans, if we were at 19, 20,000 and he was very somber and empathetic, hell, man, he could have pulled it off. But his flailing failure to lead has been so disastrous. There's no way. It's already baked in the cake, man. I don't see how Donald Trump wins, although we could talk about the worst case scenario a little bit later in the show, Dom. I mean, it would take a lot of litigation and a lot of crazy-ass circumstances to even give him an opportunity to, try to claim that he won re-election. But he's not going to win re-election, Dom. There's no way. It's the virus, stupid. And the fact that I don't think he's disciplined enough, even for 90 days, to do the right thing.
But
it seems an impossibility. Theoretically.
It is not impossible. All he has to do is make the determination.
Wear a mask and shut up. And
this is what he's finally saying now. He had a presser today. And I always remind people, I'm going to continue to remind you, on February 26th, he said we got 5 cases going down to 0, and that's a pretty good job we've done. On May 26th, like 2 months ago, he mocked a reporter for wearing a mask while asking him a question, accusing them of being politically correct for wearing the mask. And 2 months later, now 8 weeks later, today, he's out there again, everyone wear a mask. So what I guess my point is, you're seeing the trend. If it's only because of his falling poll numbers that drives this man to action, to actually encourage people for good public health, great. Hopefully they'll fall more and he will react more, because that's what we need. Kurt, do you think we're in the woods on this thing, man? You think it's all good to be open and all good for sports around? You think this is logical for us to do? Full reopen. Go back to school. Everyone's going back to school.
I think we've got disastrous results ahead of us. I think it's already baked into the cake, the electoral outcome in November, because I don't think Trump can overcome this. I don't care how many Facebook ads and Russian bots retweet his ass. I don't think he can overcome this COVID disaster. His response has been disastrous, of course. And the economy, I mean, at some point, the wheels are coming off this economy, I'm afraid to say, Dom. I think there are plenty of people on the cusp of disaster right now, just waiting for the moratoriums to end and they get evicted, or they're out of cash. And you got Republicans, maybe after we take our summer recess, maybe we'll get something done, a stimulus of some sort, but certainly nothing too grand, because you can't have those waiters and waitresses making more money staying home than they were making.
Well, of course, that is more of a problem
an hour
of what we're paying. Our capitalism is set up in this country. But I mean, this is just the beginning. Wait. I mean, if they actually go through in some of these states and full on open these schools, it is going to be a disaster. You look what's going on right now in Florida, the epidemic raging in that state. Trump cancels the RNC because now is not a good time for people to get together. But they're at the same time telling people that schools have to reopen entirely. Can you explain to me how those two things jive together?
Do you realize the state of Wisconsin is not that far behind the state of Florida? The state of Wisconsin, 18th worst in the nation. So 31 states doing better than we are in terms of COVID rates. Bruce Murphy, Urban Milwaukee Online Daily, today published an article.
Like a per capita comparison?
We would be the second worst industrialized nation in the world as a state. The state of Wisconsin would be behind only the United States. We have a terrible response. Right now in Wisconsin, this response, our state's response, I mean, we've got the second least restrictive state in the nation behind South Dakota. So don't think that we, even here in the state of Wisconsin, where a lot of school districts are going virtual, right? Mine is, Madison is, Milwaukee at least sounds like they are. But, you go out to the Waukesha counties, where they can't even play Little League baseball successfully. Because I've heard nothing on right-wing talk radio except little kids don't get it, kids don't get it, nobody gets it. It's just the old fat people. They're the only ones. Above and beyond that, don't worry about it. But suddenly I heard a change of tune. Righty-whitey talk radio. Bloviator-in-chief Rush Limbaugh today.
Whoa, what?
Saying he doesn't see how they're going to play an NFL season. That's a change of tone. Considering it's a hoax is going to cancel the NFL season. And he's saying, of course, it's Democratic governors. They're not going to open up their states. It's a small price to pay to get rid of Donald Trump. If you think he's the existential threat, it's a small price to pay. Wreck your economy for 90 more days. But then out of the other side of his mouth, he's talking about, I don't know how you're going to open up the NFL season. Not with the Marlins situation happening. Not with 14 infected players and coaches. Come back with us. The Sports Talk Live's over. Devil's Advocates on the other side. Phone lines open. 844-967-2789.
Strikeouts are boring. Besides that, they're fascist. Throw some ground balls. It's more democratic.
You know what I am? I'm a nationalist.
Well, let's give him credit. At least he didn't spike himself.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
MaxInc Radio, this is Rocker. Hey, Curdy. What? I know nothing about any of my operatives trying to steal your precious vaccine for the double dip. Jimmy, was that you?
Did Jimmy get his fingers on the vaccine? Will Rocker be able to refill the sanitizer without touching the sanitizer? Tune in to Max Inc. Radio this Saturday and Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m.
Psst. Rocker, even a mask will protect you from double dipping.
Hello, my name is Marquesa Tucker, Director of the African American Roundtable and co-founder of Liberate MKE. We recently relaunched our Liberate MKE campaign, requesting a $75 million divestment from the Milwaukee Police Department. We want a $50 million reinvestment for public health initiatives and a $25 million reinvestment to support housing cooperatives. We encourage everyone to check out our website, liberatemke.com, and join our campaign to support defunding the police. Let's liberate MKE and support building healthy communities that can thrive.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin on historic Brady Street. The Roman Coin was originally a Pabst Tight House built by Frederick Pabst in 1890 to sell Pabst beer. It was even designed by the same architect who designed the Pabst Theater. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's historic, pet-friendly, cash-only, order-in classic corner tavern.
From Port Washington to Oconomowoc, WRD 1510 AM is essential radio to get you through this pandemic.
The Devil's Advocates, so relevant they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy Monday, everyone. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I wanted to enter a submission from Jennifer Rubin into the record, if the court would take note. Appreciate it. I watched Perry Mason.
Proceed. I'm not clear what the proper rebuttal would be.
The headline, Trump's excuses are comical. Jennifer Rubin, columnist, no longer conservative. No one outside the White House, and not even everyone in it, could honestly believe President Trump's latest excuse for not showing up for a previously announced event. Trump tweeted on Sunday, "Because of my strong focus on the China virus, including scheduled meetings on vaccines, our economy, and much else." It's got much else going on, Dom.
Much else. So very busy.
I won't be able to be in New York to throw out the opening pitch for the Yankees on August 15th. We will make it later in the season! Exclamation point. As Rubin writes, yet he finds time for golf, insulting political opponents, and watching gobs of TV news. Perhaps he would rather not go to Yankee Stadium because he might not be able to throw the 60 feet 6 inches from the mound to home plate. Certainly the climb down from the 10-inch mound is not as treacherous as a West Point ramp. Maybe he shied away because he would have found himself at an event where the players all take a knee, which has been a regular and warmly received feature in the new and abbreviated season. Whatever the reason, in refusing to go, he is avoiding a place where he's likely to be confronted by those outside his bubble and widely mocked. Trump is not a courageous man, as we saw from his flight to the White House bunker during the Black Lives Matter demonstration, and before that by his unwillingness to sit down with Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller. He managed to get out of fighting in Vietnam 5 times, claiming bone spurs for one of them. His new tactic, it appears, is to accept an invitation suggesting that he's welcome in America and then to cancel with a lame excuse. Sounds like you, Salvia.
What?
Yeah, I'll be there for surezies.
At some point.
After the disastrous Tulsa rally in June, he promised to go to New Hampshire for another event. He begged off that last minute, claiming bad weather. Turned out to be a sunny day. He'll be back, he promised, before or after he throws out the first pick at Yankee Stadium. Do you think?
Crudy, Trump generally avoids TV interviews other than with Fox News. After the debacle with Chris Wallace, he might have to further refine his list of acceptable questioners. He is not courageous enough to leave the cozy confines of state TV from a grilling from independent-minded news interviewers.
Trump, call us.
He sure appears to fear standing up where he cannot control the ground rules. Showing up where he cannot control the ground rules, determine the person he will sit down with, and be confident he can avoid pesky questions. Disclosure, I am an MSNBC contributor, writes Rubin. That brings us to the presidential debate. Ooh, like how she goes with this. This is great. Do we think he will show up to the 3 presidential debates set by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The moderators must be agreed to by both sides, and unless the Democrats want to consent to a Sean Hannity or a Tucker Carlson, they might just have difficulty coming up with someone mutually acceptable. Trump will likely avoid making a decision for as long as possible, as he did with Mueller, then claim it is rigged if he cannot bring himself to show up. He might be wise to beg off. It is hard to believe he could stick to whatever time limits are imposed for his debate answers rather than resort to filibustering. He would be in grave peril of getting called out for not answering questions, being fact-checked in real time, and finding no place to hide when asked about his serial failures, especially the tens of thousands of Americans who died during the pandemic. He might be asked about any number of scandals, like, how much did you make from foreigners staying at your hotels? Did you commute Roger Stone's sentence to keep him from incriminating you? On those rare occasions when Trump has stepped outside the Fox News cocoon, the results have not been pretty. In his interview last year with ABC News chief anchor George Stephanopoulos, who asked Trump whether he would accept foreign help in the next election, Trump's responded ended up being used at his impeachment trial. He simply cannot refrain from damaging himself. I'd put the chances of Trump ducking the debates at about 50-50. I think he would rather throw that pitch before he'd subject himself to debates, writes Jennifer Rubin.
She didn't even mention the Lester Holt interview where he basically confessed to firing Comey to take the pressure off the rusher thing.
Person, man, woman, camera, TV,
golf cart, 9-iron,
computer, Frank, Milwaukee, phone.
Welcome, Frank.
Hi, how are you today?
All right, Frank.
It's a good week, too. We only got a few more days of that clown Kelly. Hey, I hate to tell Trump this and Rush and Limbaugh this, but some poor family lost their 9-year-old daughter in Florida.
Yes.
So much for kids not getting it.
She died. Frank, I just want to put a point to that. A 9-year-old healthy child died in Florida from COVID-19.
Yes. It was on the news, and I felt sorry for her family.
Yeah.
You don't want to see somebody like that dying. I mean, if little Kim Jong-un got it, that'd be a different story. As far as sports, Trump, you know what Trump would say after he threw the first pitch? I had a no-hitter going, and the manager pulled me.
Hey, Frank, in all reality, you know, Kim Jong-un had one reported case of COVID-19 in North Korea, and they basically shut down the country. Not that it's always not closed-bordered, but they made a big deal out of it.
Yeah, they did a better job than the Republicans in this state did, and that's a tyranny. Also on sports, Dick, years ago when they had them Space Jams in the 90s with Jordan, they did some phone company. Dick did an 800 commercial. You know what his 800 number was?
What's that?
1-800-WASHED-UP. That always gets the fibs pissed.
Frank, man, always appreciate hearing from you, my friend. Have a wonderful day.
Is that true? 1-800-WASHED-UP?
844-967-2789. You are our guest today. Lots more to discuss. But I want to get to this, Curdy. I think we should absolutely do it all over again. We need to shut it down and do it right. We didn't do it right last time.
Talking about the Trump presidency.
Well, can't undo that.
Sitting over here thinking we need like Dandy Don Meredith singing "Turn Out the Lights." The party's over, Trump. It's all over but the crying. Come back with us. Hour 2 is next. We've got some Charlie Sykes.
What?
I know.
I can't believe it.
He says burn it down.
What?
He means the entire Republican Party.
He's an anarchist.
Burn it down.
He hates this country.
Come back with us. Can't hate it as much as you do, you Marxist, communist, Antifa, baseball non-lover. More devils on the other side.
Things must end. Call it a night. The party's over. And tomorrow and next year starts the same old thing again.
We got it. No, I won't be going. No.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders?
chicken?
You see the size of that chicken?
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Because I'm cognitively there.
You're concerned about speaking up at work. Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hi, this is Becky from Bounce Milwaukee. We aren't open for play right now, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy your favorite pizzas, drinks, and our famous chocolate chip cookies. We're open for carry-out and delivery Wednesday through Sunday, 4 to 11 p.m. When you order, you can also add on a Pay It Forward pizza, which will help feed families in need throughout our community, as well as provide fuel for Milwaukee's social justice protesters. You can place your own order for takeout or delivery, or send a Pay It Forward pizza to the community by visiting bouncemilwaukee.com.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Making history, testing vaccines. I'm Jan Johnson. The late Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis is making history as the first black lawmaker to lie on stage in the Capitol Rotunda. Linya Kenyon reports on an afternoon of honors.
The tributes began with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Today, we pray and trust that this peacemaker himself now rests in peace.
And from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
It is an official, personal, and very sad honor to welcome our colleague, John Lewis, back to the Capitol, to welcome his family and his many friends, to acknowledge his sacred life.
John Lewis, who served more than 3 decades in Congress and who waged a lifelong battle for civil rights, died of pancreatic cancer. He was 80. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
On a visit to North Carolina, President Trump is noting today's start of the biggest test yet of an experimental COVID-19 vaccine. And he's predicting more successes in the near future.
By the end of this year, we're going to be, in terms of the vaccine, I think in terms of therapeutics, even sooner than that. Therapeutics meaning you go and you give somebody, whether it's transfusion or shots or whatever it may be, and they heal quickly.
A coronavirus outbreak among the Miami Marlins. 13 infections has prompted the cancellation of 2 big league games tonight, as John Stolness tells us.
Dodgers pitcher David Price, who opted out of playing this season, criticized Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred for allowing games to continue despite the outbreak when he tweeted, "Now we really get to see if MLB is going to put players' health first." Angels manager Joe Maddon said, "I think it's really important to trace how it occurred. That's the one thing you need before you jump to a lot of conclusions." And Marlins manager Don Mattingly admitted, "It's fair to say my guys are concerned about things."
I'm Jan Johnson.
Hey, I'm Andy.
MaxInc Radio, this is Rocker. Hey, Curdy. What? I know nothing about any of my operatives trying to steal your precious vaccine for the double dip. Jimmy, was that you?
Did Jimmy get his fingers on the vaccine? Will Rocker be able to get out of the bathroom without touching the door handle? Tune in to MaxInc Radio this Saturday and Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m.
Psst. Rocker, even a mask will protect you from double dipping.
Hey, Farmer Bill here. You know Aronia berries are really good for you. They have an intense, tangy flavor that will make your smoothies and cereal come alive. You can find fresh, frozen, and Aronia juice concentrate in Madison at Medcalf's, Willie Street Co-op, and Woodman's, and in Milwaukee at Outpost stores. Or you can find us at our website, organicaronia.com, where you can even order bushes for some beautiful edible landscaping. Support your body with Bellbrook Berry Farm's locally, organically grown Aronia berries, and thanks from our crew.
Post says the Trump administration is sending more federal agents to Portland, where black leaders are calling for a refocus from violence to protests against racism.
Dr. Shirley Jackson is a professor of black studies at Portland State University. She says not only is the message of systemic racism lost, but
it's almost as though the African American community has been forgotten in large part.
She says, and the white people who are involved in the protests and now center stage, she says, may not be aware of their own privilege that has directed the effort into something that that was not intended. It seems now to be more about the federal officers, and the focus needs to be put back on black issues. She also says this is resulting in negative backlash on the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm Jim Roop.
After dumping up to 15 inches of rain on parts of South Texas, what's left of Hurricane Hannah still threatens to bring more rain and flash floods to the same places that are dealing with a surge in coronavirus cases. I'm Jan Johnson.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker for Busted Pencils Radio. Educated educators talking education. Tuesday nights at 7, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Do, re, mi, the first three notes just happen to
Terrible.
So when need to pulling thread. I can see listeners dropping off. Let's get some callers before we lose everybody. Betsy from Madison, you're up. Thanks for calling.
That will bring us back to do.
Terrible.
Hey, at least we didn't do Edelweiss.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gosted with your headlines. Family members of recently suspended Wauwatosa police officer Joseph Mensah have begun a fundraising campaign to, quote, explore and take legal action against those who have unjustly accused him of wrongdoing, interfered with his ability to receive due process, and wrongly besmirched his character and integrity, end quote. Mensah has shot and killed 3 people while on duty with the Wauwatosa Police Department. The Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office is investigating the most recent one. 17-year-old Alvin Cole was killed back in February. As of July 25th, Mensah's family has raised more than $50,000. The Wauwatosa Police and Fire Commission suspended Mensah with pay following the Common Council calling for his removal. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, burn it down. Burn it down.
What kind of Antifa, hippie, communist, Marxist, socialist comment is that?
Well,
who would say such a thing?
Former righty-whitey talk radio host for like a quarter of a century. Charlie Sykes. You know him. You hate him. He's Charlie Sykes. I take a special anger in the fact that he's got an MSNBC contract. He gets paid.
And you don't?
No, I do not.
But would you want one?
If it paid me, sure, why not? Here it is at thebulwark.com. Trumpism corrupts. And then a question. Burn it all down? And then a subheadline. The Senate Republicans who protected and enabled Trump have to be held accountable. So saith Charlie Sykes. Senate Republicans have enabled Trump's despicable behavior, Matt K. Lewis writes over at the Daily Beast, while doing nothing to mitigate his worst instincts. Rather than rising to the occasion, they instead buckled under the pressure. They lack both the courage and the character we should expect from our leaders. If Trump were a more competent authoritarian, their cowardice might have been lethal. But, writes Lewis, we should vote for them anyways. 6 more years. let's leave aside the question of whether the deaths of nearly 150,000 Americans can be considered a lethal consequence. Lewis is amongst the anti-Trump critics, now warning against punishing the GOP too severely for its cowardice, lack of character, and submission to Trumpism. He is joined by David French, who is also squarely in the camp that seeks to dump Trump, but not to seek vengeance on the rest of the GOP. Here's a inset, Dom. A rage, fury, and burn it all down mentality is one of the maladies that brought us to this present moment. Repeating that same impulse, but with an entire party in the crosshairs, will only compound our political dysfunction. French is likely referring to comments made by Lincoln Project Steve Schmidt, who argues that never Trump conservatives should vote against Republicans up and down the ballot.
Yes.
Here again a quote, this one from Steve Schmidt. The analogy would be, in the same way that fire purifies the forest, it needs to be burned to the ground and fundamentally repudiated. Every one of them should be voted out of office with the exception of Mitt Romney. He's the good Mormon. Predictably, the legions of anti-Trumpers are incensed, suggesting that this position makes never-Trumpers effectively Democrats. As a class, the anti-Trumpers may concede that the House is on fire, but are content to sit on the patio complaining about the fire extinguishers. But both Lewis and French are a different story. They have been unwavering in their never-Trumpism. I've been a fan of Lewis's since his 2016 book, Too Dumb to Fail, eviscerated the GOP for betraying the Reagan Revolution. And I am, by long custom and practice, an avowed Frenchist, writes Charlie Sykes, not Crudy. So it gives me no pleasure to say that they are both wrong, Dominic.
But we need to have this debate. Is Trumpism a seasonal flu or a metastasizing cancer? Or, to mix some metaphors, does the Republican Party need an attitude adjustment or a complete exorcism, Botox, or an enema? Charlie. In political terms, can you defeat Trumpism by defeating Trump but leaving his bootlickers in power? The short answer, Crudy, no! As George Will has said, Trump has been a Vesuvius of mendacity, but the rot obviously runs much deeper than the president himself. Trump himself is a horror show, but the most horrific story of the last 4 years has been the complete surrender of the GOP to Trumpism, not just on policy, but on everything. The party that once imagined itself to be about ideas became a cult of personality for one of the most deplorable personalities in political history. This suggests that the dysfunction in the GOP was a pre-existing condition, and that bringing the party back to sanity won't be easy. As a matter of political hygiene, getting rid of the Orange God King is necessary, but far from sufficient. The transactional nature of the Senate GOP's groveling surrender to Trump is straightforward. Simply ignore his awfulness and you will get things you want. That bargain required ignoring an ever-growing pile of awfulness. At some point, the ignorance morphed into rationalization and ultimately active collaboration. The political calculation was also uncomplicated. Breaking with Trump would be political suicide because it would bring nasty tweets and aggravate the base. Earlier this year, Senate Republicans decided to tie their fates inextricably to Trump, including an apparent end to public disagreements for the next 6 months until the party is past the election. The question now is, should we attempt to rescue them from the consequences of that decision? Lewis evidently thinks so because the alternative would be so much worse. He cites the Lincoln Project's broadside against Trump's Senate enablers, noting that it is a compelling ad. But he asks, is this a smart strategy for conservatives who want to restore the party of Ronald Reagan and not empower the party of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? But wait, if the Democrats were actually the party of AOC, writes Charlie Sykes, Joe Biden would not be its nominee. We would be talking about Bernie.
Yes!
The fact that we are not is not trivial, but except for his bit of Don Jr. level straw manning, Lewis makes a more substantive case. Just because you think Trump is horrible doesn't mean you should cheer a 180-degree backlash, he writes. Losing the Senate would leave Republicans with little power to block a progressive, pro-abortion Supreme Court justice nominee. And when President Biden is trying to raise the top marginal tax rate north of 50%, I want enough Republicans in the Senate to be there to stop it, unquote. All of this has elements of truth, but isn't it also sort of transactional argument that gave us Trumpism in the first place? It profits a man nothing to give his soul for the world, but for marginal tax rates? Lewis is on stronger ground when he warns that defeating some of the moderate senators like Susan Collins might leave the GOP more Trumpy than ever, so he cautions against destroying the party to save the party. But in this case, saving the party means voting for Lindsey Graham, Kelly Loeffler, John Cornyn, Martha McSally, Tom Tillis, Mitch McConnell, Cory Garner, and Joni Ernst. Crudy, what kind of salvation is that?
Now I want to carry you down to Charlie's conclusion here. Talks about a couple of the Republican senators lacking in spine, Marsha Blackburn, Tom Tillis. So that's who he references first here. But we've jumped ahead in the piece. We've published this at the Devil's Advocates Facebook page. Read it if you must, but here's the conclusion. There is nothing unique about Tillis or Blackburn. They are what the Senate GOP has become on issue after issue: the deficit, impeachment, racial justice, corruption, the assault on the rule of law, and basic oversight. Senate Republicans have distinguished themselves by failing to uphold their most basic constitutional responsibilities. Some have simply fallen silent, while others have turned themselves into low-rent internet trolls. Worse, they have squandered their credibility. Only the profoundly naive can imagine a John Cornyn making a credible case against executive overreach, or Kelly Loeffler for ethics in government, or Lindsey Graham defending the rule of law. Which Senate Republican would not be laughed off the stage if he or she attempted to warn now against the dangers of an exploding national debt? Of course, we need to be realistic. If Senate Republicans are defeated en masse, they will not necessarily be replaced by angels or statesmen, and the policy implications will not be pleasant for conservatives. There are, however, no permanent victories or defeats. Parties can renew themselves in the wilderness. But if the GOP does not somehow renew itself by purging the foul air of its current corruption, it will find itself in the wilderness for the next 40 years as it tries to explain its history of Vichy Trumpism. Where does that leave us? I have nothing but respect for Mitt Romney, and if I lived in Nebraska, I would probably come around to voting for Ben Sasse this year. And throughout the nation, there are smart, principled, competent Republican governors like Larry Hogan, Charlie Baker, and Phil Scott. As for the rest of them, burn it all down.
Charlie Sykes!
Burn it all down, says Charlie Sykes, the founder and editor-at-large of The Bulwark and the author of How the Right Lost Its Mind. And also MSNBC contributor. The part that irks me.
And also one of the genesis points for, I think, the current dysfunction that we have in this country. His reign on top of conservative talk radio here in the Milwaukee market, and certainly here in Wisconsin, how does that not contribute to what we are seeing now?
Oh, he contributed. He laid it out there, man. He made the bed for this to happen. Charlie Sykes, you know, he can pretend like he didn't contribute to the racism, the dog whistling, but of course he did. He laid the groundwork. Charlie Sykes helped break it. Charlie Sykes helped lift up Scott Walker from obscurity as a second-tier legislature into a presidential candidate. Charlie Sykes, you got plenty of blood on your hand, man. Don't think voting for Joe Biden or writing a couple of op-eds get you off the hook.
Hell, he's calling for the party. Burn it all down. He's being the anarchist. He is Antifa. Charlie Sykes, former conservative righty talk radio host here in Wisconsin.
Is he advocating for burning down righty-whitey talk radio? I don't hear that sort of advocation from Charlie.
That's a great question, Curdy. I'm not sure that he did. What do you call them? They're down to being professional trolls, some of these other Republican legislators. Maybe you should call that one out, Charlie.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789. Charlie Sykes says, burn it down. Be careful. Tom just might.
Well, I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community, so Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone. Don't send in those absentee ballots just yet. Talk 1017 FM is broadcasting forums for you to hear about candidates running to represent Milwaukee. Thursday, August 6th, meet the candidates running to represent Assembly District 17, previously held by Representative David Crowley. Tune in Friday, August 7th to hear the candidates running for the 8th Assembly District, Representative Jocasta-Zamaripa's previous seat. Both nights, the forums will be broadcasted from 7 to 8 p.m., exclusively on Talk 1017 FM, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Milwaukee, join me, Alan Robinson, Wednesday evenings for my new show, Wiz Cannabis Radio. We're setting the record straight on cannabis in Wisconsin. Follow me at Wisco Cannabis and listen live Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. right here on Talk 1017 FM.
Your blood pressure numbers could change your life. Talk to your doctor about creating a plan that works better for you. Start taking the right steps at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Doug from Cudahy.
Right around the time of the uprising, I found you. I started listening, and 2 years later, after I signed the recall and voted, we went out to sing along with the singers on my birthday. And they were so cool, and it's one of the greatest memories that I had. And ever since I started listening to the Devil's Advocates, I have been woke. I haven't missed one vote since. You guys have really done wonders for our community, and I'm just so happy you're on the air.
Making radio great again.
From Bernie to Biden to Trump supporters, Talk 1017 FM has the political fix for every Wisconsinite, always streaming essential radio at talk1017fm.com.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, what are we talking about now, man?
Well, I just want to kind of reflect briefly on this Charlie Sykes piece written up in the Bulwark. Of course, he don't want to promote it too much because he is, I think, the founder of that particular site. So thanks for burning it down here in Wisconsin, then leaving, Charlie. But one thing I do want to note, when he gets to the conclusion of his piece, in this case, saving the party means voting for Graham, Kelly, Loeffler. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get back to your piece here. I have nothing but respect for Mitt Romney. And if I lived in Nebraska, I would probably come around to voting for Ben Sass this year. And throughout the nation, there are smart, principled, competent Republican governors like Larry Hogan, Charlie Baker, and Phil Scott. As for the rest of them, burn it all down. And what I did not see specifically articulated in this piece by Charlie Sykes is his thoughts on current Republican senator from the state of Wisconsin, Republican Ron Johnson.
Yeah, sort of conspicuous by his absence.
And I have to assume, I mean...
he's been negative on Ron recently. He said Ron was a guy he admired and he didn't know what the hell happened to Ron Johnson.
Drink the Kool-Aid, man. He's part of the cult now. So you're calling out Ron Johnson too? I'd like to specifically hear that again. Curdy says he did. I'm not clear, but I'm wondering, did he send support Ron Johnson initially? Well, of course he did.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. Little regret there, Charlie Sykes. 844-967-2789. Republicans, former Republicans, conservatives, I guess, say we should burn it all down. Or at least the Republicans should. And Republicans out there agree with that? I'd like to hear. Where are our Republican friends at? They've been kind of hiding in the sand lately. Talking about you, Gary.
You saw this article Charlie posted. We read this one a couple months ago. May 20th. The strange case of Ron Johnson.
Strange case.
Less than flattering write-up by Charlie Sykes over at the Bulwark.
So he's throwing Ron Johnson in there as well. Burn Ron Johnson down.
I'll remind you briefly of what he wrote back in May. I go way back with Ron Johnson. A mutual friend introduced us in early 2010 when I was still a righty-whitey radio host in Wisconsin. Democratic Senator Russ Feingold was cruising a re-election in large measure because the GOP simply had no strong candidates to run against the three-term incumbent. But my friend said there was this guy from Oshkosh. I should meet him. More out of politeness than anything else, I met Johnson. As a way of introduction, he pulled out a transcript of a speech he'd been giving at Republican events. I thought it was pretty good. I'll let Peggy Noonan tell the rest of the story. So he goes on, talking about how good Ron Johnson is. And then, quotes Christian Schneider. You know him. You know what Schneider wrote about me? Called me more Trumpian than Trump.
I find that very difficult to believe.
As progressives on social media will be sure to know, we were a thing. Him and Ron Johnson, that is. And not everyone was thrilled. In a detailed account of Johnson's improbable upset victory, Christian Schneider, now a Bulwark contributor, told this funny story. On this campaign swing, Johnson's favorite trick was quoting verbatim entire glowing passages of what Milwaukee talk radio show host Charlie Sykes had said about him. Despite nobody in western Wisconsin knowing who Charlie Sykes was, staff noticed people's eyes glazing over when he began his typical Sykes spiel. So Sykes bragging that he made Ron Johnson effectively, but it devolves from that.
Right? It goes a little south in the relationship, huh?
Here's a little bit more. The Ron Johnson I knew was unawed by the Senate and unimpressed by its establishment. He was certainly no fan of Mitch McConnell and vice versa. In 2016, Johnson ran for re-election, and he faced off for a rematch against Feingold. He trailed in the polls for much of the race, and then Dom kept inviting him on the Devil's Advocates, and somehow he won. And other institutional Republicans left him for dead. Instead, Johnson defied Wisconsin political history and D.C. Republican naysayers and won. And he didn't just win, he got more votes than anyone on the Wisconsin ballot, including the Republican presidential candidate. He was poised to be very much his own man. Instead, he became Trump's.
And what's Ron Johnson doing right now? What is he doing with his chairmanship of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs?
Well, he's getting ready to persecute Hunter Biden, of course.
Well, everyone wants to know the DNC server and all that happened in the Ukraine. You think he'd be, I don't know, a little more concerned about bounties being paid by Russia to the Taliban for the death of American troops.
What happened to Ron Johnson, he concludes in this May piece. On one level, his story is not all that much different from the rest of the GOP, which has transformed itself into Trumpist camp followers. But I thought Rojo would be different. Oh no, just like the rest. Just like you, Charlie Sykes. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates on the other side. Now I've quoted him twice today. I butchered the end there. Did that on purpose. I meant to do that. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
I got a joint here, man. I've been saving for a special occasion.
It smells like a turd covered in burnt hair.
Burn already!
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
You concerned about speaking up at work?
Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hi, I'm Tom Newhouse, the piano man, and I have too darn many pianos at Newhouse Piano Workshop. At Newhouse Pianos, I sell only reconditioned pianos at a huge discount price and offer free delivery on all pianos over $1,500. So Google Pianos Milwaukee and click on newhousepianoworkshop.com to check out my current inventory of reconditioned pianos I have for sale. Call or text me at 262-302-1965 to schedule an appointment with me, Tom Newhouse, the piano man.
This is Michael Johnson, president of Boys and Girls Club. We are proposing to the state legislature to add a new statue of Vale Phillips to the state capitol. Vale was the first African American to be elected to a statewide office, the first judge, and the first alderwoman. The time is now, and it's unfortunate that in 2020, there's not one piece of art representing and celebrating the life and legacy of African Americans in Wisconsin. Please contact your state representative and ask for their full support.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin. The Roman Coin features weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, pinball, a pool table, a jukebox, and a great selection of craft beers. The Roman Coin is also pet-friendly to appeal to the canine crowd, and you can order it from several nearby restaurants. Regano's Roman Coin, 1004 East Brady Street on Milwaukee's east side.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's the Stephanie Miller Show from 8 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's the Earl Ingram Show. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. At 6, it's Busted Pencils, Whiz Cannabis Radio, and Maggie Dawn. And at 7, it's Democracy Now! Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now, as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in Wisconsin did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
Interested in becoming a licensed high school official? Go to highschoolofficials.com to learn more and begin the application process.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Friday morning at 7 o'clock, let's fix our society by fixing ourselves with the Love Doc, Dr. Brenda Wade, on The Santita Jackson Show on 1017 FM.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Talk 1017 FM, Milwaukee's choice for essential radio.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gostad with your headlines. The 2019 audit of Foxconn was delivered to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for the purpose of evaluating nearly $202 million in tax credits. The audit was done by London-based auditing and consulting agency with offices in Milwaukee named Deloitte. Hundreds of employees, salaries, and job titles and employment dates are contained in the audit, but it does not determine how many employees listed will count towards the company receiving state money. WEDC has until the end of this year to determine if Foxconn has met the benchmarks necessary to receive taxpayer funds. The Brewers fell to the Cubs yesterday in pandemic play at Wrigley Field, losing the opening series 2-1. The Crew is on the road today in Pittsburgh for an evening matchup with the Pirates. Highs today in the mid-80s with partly cloudy skies, overnight lows in the mid-60s. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
the Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looks so good.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, the polling shows Joe Biden commanding lead in the state of Wisconsin, most of the swing states, hell, nationwide. It's the virus, stupid.
Oh, look, on the CNN right now, the president is paying respects to Rep. John Lewis at the U.S. Capitol. Oh, wait, that's Joe Biden. Trump's not in town.
No, Trump left town. Didn't want to be overwhelmed by emotion. I feel quite confident.
No, I won't be going. No.
No, he won't be going to the funeral of John Lewis. But Dominic, I wanted to talk about Joe Biden and the worst ever campaign moment revisited. And it's hard not to revisit this moment because it's playing out on the Wisconsin airwaves with constancy. Joe Biden apparently said something to the effect, and it is captured on tape, "I think I have a much higher IQ than you, I suspect."
How very Trumpy of him.
Well,
I mean, you can see Donald Trump saying something like that, right?
Joe has this bad habit of being confrontational with voters. They question some aspect. And anyways, let me read from this article, Dom, the Washington Post, my source. Many readers in Wisconsin have contacted the fact checker asking about an ad by a pro-GOP group called Restoration PAC. The group announced it would spend about $2 million to air it on all media markets in the state. The question from readers is, did this really happen? Well, the best attack ads rely on the rival candidate's own words, and Biden really said this stuff. The facts. Biden's first run for the presidency more than 3 decades ago exploded in controversy over plagiarism. Without credit, Biden's stump speech included lines lifted from a speech given by Neil Kinnock, then the leader of the British Labour Party, an operative in a rival campaign then of that of then-Governor Michael Dukakis of Massachusetts, who eventually won the Democratic nomination, gave to the media tape comparing Biden's speech and Kinnock's speech. Biden tried to hang on, but then the reporters discovered he had flunked a class in law school for submitting a paper that borrowed heavily from another law review article without proper citation. The coup de grace came when Newsweek reported that Biden had made false or exaggerated claims about his law school record during a discussion months earlier with voters in New Hampshire, which had been captured by C-SPAN. Now, the ad that I have seen with some frequency, Dom, it captures the C-SPAN footage. Joe Biden talking to a voter in New Hampshire. The Newsweek article had an impressive quadruple byline of Mickey Kaus, Eleanor Clift, Howard Feynman, and John P. McCormick. The magazine distributed its report to other outlets before publication, something that was done in the pre-internet era. Thus, even though the official date of the Newsweek issue is September 28th, 1987, Biden was already out of the race by then. He withdrew on September 23rd, citing the exaggerated shadow of his mistakes, Dom.
Pardon me. It all started when, after about 40 minutes of an almost continuous Biden monologue at an April event, Frank Fahey of a Claremont, New Hampshire teacher asked Biden, "What law school did you attend and where did you place in that class?" And here's Biden's full answer. "I think I have a much higher IQ than you, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. The first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up at the bottom 2/3 of my class. And then decided I wanted to stay and went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits. You only need 123 credits. I would be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours, Frank."
How many credits? Like 42 excess credits? That's almost a third more than you need, Joe. Now, I had a buddy that had lots of credits, but that wasn't a good sign.
And he didn't have lots of degrees. He just, changed his major over and over and over again?
Mostly struggled with a few of, the English usage exams and wanted to be a teacher for a while, but struggled with the PSATs or whatever they called them for teachers, the obligatory test you had to pass. So this guy graduated with 180 credits. I graduated with 118 credits of the prerequisite 118.5 credits. And guess what? We got the same piece of paper.
Did you really graduate, Crudy?
I did.
Are you sure?
That's what the piece of paper said.
Biden didn't even mention where he went to law school, but it was Syracuse University. The problem was, as Newsweek revealed, bullet point number 1, Biden did not go to Syracuse Law School on a full academic scholarship. It was a half scholarship based on financial need. Bullet point number 2, he didn't finish in the top half of his class. He was 75th out of 85. Bullet point number 3, he did not win the award given to the outstanding political science student at his undergraduate college, the University of Delaware. And he didn't graduate from Delaware with 3 degrees, but with a single BA in political science and history. Talk about 4 Pinocchios, Crudy.
Well, Dom, when you've got so many credits, maybe he had the prerequisites for like 4 different degrees. He had knocked out the classes. He just didn't declare the majors.
Talk about 4 Pinocchios, writes the Washington Post. The Restoration PAC ad simply takes a clipped version of Biden's remarks, leaving out, for instance, his admission that he did not do well in his first year, and overlays the audio so the focus is on Biden. C-SPAN mostly kept the camera on Fahey. Then it shows damaging news reports on the incident, including Biden's admission that his memory had failed him. The ad concludes with a tagline, Joe Biden, unsuited then, unsuited now. A great book on the 1988 presidential race, Richard Ben Kramer's What It Takes, recounts how Biden in law school never wanted to be a grind and spent most of his time at the student lounge gabbing. He barely made the cut after his first year when Syracuse kicked out the bottom third of the class. Biden, after the first year, ranked 80th, and only the top 88 were permitted to go on to the second year. We're not sure how Biden could have forgotten that. Still, with its focus on the 1987 incident, the ad leaves out some contemporary context years later. Fahey is now a Biden supporter. Fahey told WMUR in 2019 that Biden had apologized for his comments when they met again in 2008 during Biden's second run for the presidency. He said, "You're Frank Fahey," and he knew right off. And he said, "I want to apologize." He said, "I was way out of line that day." Fahey recalled, adding, "I like his honesty." The Biden campaign declined to comment. And on the Pinocchio test from Glenn Kessler, the Washington Post, the incident in question took place 33 years ago, and Biden was talking about his record in law school 23 years earlier. Voters may find that fibs about events that took place more than half a century ago may not be especially relevant, especially when Biden is running against a man who has his own problems telling the truth. The ad, for understandable reasons, does not include the fact that the man Biden insulted is now a supporter. Some voters may find that relevant, but everything happened in the ad as described. The editing of the clip leaves in place the essence of Biden's remarks and does not manipulate it in a misleading way, so Restoration PAC does not earn any Pinocchios.
I got to tell you, in any other political environment, that ad would be damning. I mean, it's a tough ad, and the criticism sticks, and it's truthful. And Joe Biden has a really bad habit of confronting voters, especially at like town halls, face to face. "Hey man, I'll do more push-ups than you."
Get your words straight, Jack.
He does that with frequency. Now, we knew some young ladies that bird dogged him in Iowa about a year ago. And Joe Biden got up in that one young lady's face, pointed right in her face, was done. And certainly it's got to be frustrating out on the campaign trail. You get asked all sorts of asinine questions, and some questions that perhaps you're not prepared to answer at this time, early in the campaign. But to take that tact, that confrontational tact with voters, or even bird doggers, or the media, truly not to the benefit of his campaign.
No
and this
doubt.
ad, I've seen it over and over and over again. And I'm not trying to crap on Joe Biden right now, per se, but I got to tell you, if it was anyone else that was Joe Biden's opponent in the fall general election, that ad would give me long pause and second thoughts about pulling the switch for Uncle Joe.
You're full of
844-967-2789. You know, they're right. When you use someone's own words in a criticism of them, you're not making it up, right? So, and assuming it's in context, and this is in context, we know Joe says all sorts of crazy things, and that was one of them, and he later apologized, something I have never heard Donald Trump do.
I take no responsibility at all.
At 100,
that comment will come back to haunt me.
150,000 dead. And so while there is this one ad and this one incident, and, listen, we're all human. We are all bound to fail at some time, some way, somehow. How do you deal with that in the aftermath of it? I think it is more defining of you as a person than what you were going through when you said it. The person, Frank, that Joe was talking to, accepted his apology, likes Joe's honesty, and presumably, as the reporting says, is a supporter.
Come on, man. A presidential candidate remembered him out of the blue, knew him by name, and apologized to him. That's all it took. I mean, for the average voter, if you're Frank Fahey, I don't care how insulted you were once upon a time and how untruthful Joe Biden was. I think the fact that he was acknowledged by a presidential candidate and the guy specifically apologized to him, I think that had, a warming effect on Frank.
Yeah, well, no doubt. I mean, anytime that someone does you wrong and they apologize, that's a good thing. I mean, good thing Frank didn't hold a grudge like some people I know.
Do you remember the guitar guy at the Trump rally? We first met him in Janesville.
Yeah, yep.
Craig something. And that gentleman had the opportunity in New Hampshire.
The Trump train guy. Yeah.
The Trump train guy. But he had the opportunity to meet with Donald Trump privately, backstage or whatever. And he told him about his son who had died of opiates. And he felt like Donald Trump had given him of his personal attention. And that's all it took. Man, that guy was following Trump around, sold his house, went bankrupt, just playing the Trump train tune all around America. And about a year after Trump's election, I think we had him on the Devil's Advocates radio show, and the man had completely changed his tune because he knew that was nothing but insincerity.
Yes.
There was no real empathy upon Trump's behalf. He didn't really do anything to solve the problem, even though he now had the power of the presidency. So I'm just saying, a little personal touch from a presidential candidate, they can go a long ways.
Well, a little personal touch from anybody goes a long way.
Sure.
You keep qualifying as a presidential candidate. So what? I mean, you could be a presidential candidate right now, Crudy. You give it.
I would think Joe's got a little more star power than me, although it's close.
You put him up on a pedestal, man. I mean, come on. So
you
what?
Should.
No, what?
Really? You don't think the presidential candidate should be held to a higher standard and should be a better
higher standard?
Yeah.
They should be held at least to the standard that we are held to, Crudy. And that's what we're doing right now, talking about this piece with Joe.
We hold ourselves to a higher standard of truthfulness and getting our own resumes right than Joe Biden ever did. The fact that he would go and just
so what you're kind of
butcher his record and lie about his record.
Then. So why should we just because he's a presidential candidate? Why would you give him a pass on any of those things? So
I'm not giving him a pass. I'm giving explanation to why Mr. Fahey in New Hampshire might have become a supporter a decade later when the guy acknowledged him and apologized.
Well, he apologized because he was wrong. And maybe that's why Mr. Fahey
How many times did Joe do that on the campaign trail just this cycle?
Apologize?
At least a half a dozen times. No, confronted voters, got in a face-to-face conflict. Either wanted to do a push-up off or maybe get in a fist fight with the guy or brush back a woman who was bird-dogging him with a little too much passion. Joe Biden does this to people all the time. Oh, I'm sorry. I really, lost my temper. We'll take some anger management classes, Joe.
But he's running for president, so he must be better than everybody, right?
I'm saying we should hold our presidential candidates to a higher level. Unfortunately, he's the one that apparently the last president anointed for us. Bertie was my guy. And I can tell you one thing, Bertie never lied to me about his record or how many degrees he had or what his graduation rank was in law school.
And those are pointless, meaningless, fruitless lies. There's no reason to even go down that road.
Why lie about one's resume? There is a thing called Google. It didn't exist in the 70s, but, you can still look up a guy's transcripts. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. You on the phones, 844-967-2789. Just don't lie to us.
Trump train, roll on down the line.
I always want to tell the truth. When I can, I tell the truth.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Burn already!
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community, so Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone.
Hello, my name is Marquesa Tucker, Director of the African American Roundtable and co-founder of Liberate MKE. We recently relaunched our Liberate MKE campaign, requesting a $75 million divestment from the Milwaukee Police Department. We want a $50 million reinvestment for public health initiatives and a $25 million reinvestment to support housing cooperatives. We encourage everyone to check out our website, liberatemke.com, and join our campaign to support defunding the police. Let's liberate MKE and support building healthy communities that can thrive.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
The Devil's Advocates are live weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
You guys are getting it done.
You boys are the light of my day, and I've been listening to you for many years.
I love you guys. You're the greatest thing that has happened to Wisconsin radio.
If it wasn't for your radio program and getting out the vote, who knows?
I got to give you guys so many props.
I'm pretty sure your guys' radio station had a direct impact on that.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you.
When it comes to politics, people come to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network, 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Socially distanced over there, young man. Taking your calls now, 844-967-2789.
I don't even like being in the same city with you.
Joe from Madison. Thanks for calling today, Joe. What do you got for us?
Hey, Joe.
Well, I'm wondering when Charlie Sykes apologizes.
Right.
That's an apology I'd really like to hear.
When the checks stop cashing, Charlie will make an apology.
Exactly. And I think that there is something profound about a person who says, seriously, it takes oomph to say, yeah, I was wrong. I was an idiot. I'm sorry. And people do respond to that. It's why you have contempt for Trump, because this is a guy who would never apologize. And here we have Charlie Sykes, who basically is, there was a quote from about him in the Los Angeles Times from Mike Tate, the former Wisconsin Democratic chairman. He described Charlie as a guy who slowly fed poison to his dog for 10 years. Then when the dog dies of poisoning, he throws up his hands and said, my God, how did that happen? I mean, he played his part in this, and it is galling to hear this guy now go, oh, geez, what's happened to my party? Well, it's burning from the matches you threw into it. It's just impossible to have any respect for somebody who doesn't ever apologize for this. He says, well, I wish I could have done a better job here or there. Man, apologize. I'm sorry for my part in this mess. Here's my part, and I'm really sorry. Have we heard it? No, and we won't hear it, because this guy he's, as you said, he's cashing the checks. So that's my thought today, that apologies can go a long way.
What about our pal Joe Biden and his incessant need to confront voters that ask him questions that apparently he doesn't like about his law record or whatever the case may be? Joe just seemingly overreacts. Does Joe need to make any sort of public kumbaya, a mea culpa for what he said back in the 80s when he ran two elections ago?
Yeah, he could. He certainly could. I think when it's on the trail as compared to 33 years ago, two different situations. When it's on the trail, it's useful to sort of figure out who and what is doing, who's confronting him. I remember there was a group of guys in hard hats who were Trump supporters who were confronting him, and it's so reeked of a setup. It's so reeked of, we're going to have 6 guys who appear in their hard hats. I mean, that come on, we're wearing our uniforms that say who we are, and Joe, how dare you contradict anything we say. In that circumstance, I thought, good for you for showing some oomph and hitting right back, and not just cowering and going, oh, you guys must be right. With the women who are bird dogging him, there's a different situation too, Crudy, and I don't know. See, the problem is when it's current day, it goes, each individual occurrence has a backstory to it. It has information about it that we don't know, not unlike deciphering the ad that you guys spent time on and how useful it was when you deciphered the various ways that ad was constructed in a pretty a way that was really not honest. So I think, he probably could apologize for going back to his educational days. But then again, we're with a guy who, as I have called about and said before, we're over 20,000 lies in 3 years.
Right,
so,
right.
So,
and I don't want to, and Joe, and thank you very much for your observations and your calls, as always. And I don't want to equate these, the lies of Joe Biden or the misstatements of Joe Biden to the lies or the misstatements of President Trump. It's not even close.
No, the other guy is a pathological liar, but Joe was lying about what? Getting arrested earlier this year in the presidential campaign, during the primaries, right before South Carolina. Joe Biden was still telling lies about his resume. And then the pandemic hit, and, the Clyburn endorsement hit, and the Buttigieg and the Klobuchar, and Barack Obama tapped a lot of good Dems and said, now's the time to get on the Joe bandwagon, and they did. And Joe never really had to talk about the lies about the Nelson Mandela or a lot of the other things that he has misrepresented. And I get it. There's lying, and then there's Trump. But God, man, I just wish the Democratic nominee that I didn't have to question his veracity, his resume. Why can't you just tell the truth, Joe?
844-967-2789. Who's next? Joe from Stevens Point. You are up. Welcome. What do you got for us today, Joe?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, what's up, fellas? We saw the Joe Biden protection squad come into full force for South Carolina, and we saw, miraculously, it's just so strange how Liz Warren held out, how Tom Steyer held out. That was kind of his fire line too. But anyways, this is what this is about, and Joe Biden's old history is his old history, and Trump's old history is his old history. What we always get confused with, like it's a 100-yard dash, and who's ever the more skank is like, oh no, that guy's way more skank, but our guy is skank, and that's the problem. And that's why I think Joe Biden and great. Thank you for covering that Charlie Sykes piece, because that ties into the danger of yielding to a Lincoln Project scam out operation. And if Joe Biden, he's had the worst politics for 40 years. He's been on the wrong side of every issue. That's when he's challenging everybody to push-ups and cerebral tests and everything that doesn't matter, because he doesn't have a policy platform. And Trump's going to curb stomp him for being, just Joe Biden, because he's so insultable. He's just like a walking target for Trump.
I know, but come on, man. You think, Trump
would have to have the courage to show up at the debates, Joe. He'd want to have this contest, but of course that would require preparation. And I think that Joe Biden's team will help prep him. I'm not sure that Donald Trump would prep for a debate. I think he would be embarrassed no matter what.
Mike, what's it going to be? Is it going to be him coming out as a progressive, or is he going to be 2 clicks to the left of Trump and a psycho right-wing Republican Party? And do we tie the Republican Party to Trump, or are we running around trying to get disaffected Lincoln Project voters that are going to scam us out, sell us out? Charlie Sykes never defined the Republican vision in that article. Everything was just about grasping fingernails, hanging on to power. And it's not going to speak to the problems and the raw, simple, foundational problems that this country is experiencing right now. So Joe Biden, this is his to figure out real quick. I hope we give him protection by giving him a solid platform, a reason for Democrats to come together and coalesce around Joe Biden. Not this like we're 2 concentration camps less than Trump.
Joe, one thing I would point out, the Bernie Sanders supporters are threatening a DNC revolt over Medicare for all. Should it be part of the Democratic platform? I think you would think yes. I think yes. But don't tell Joe Biden that. He, of course, is opposed to Medicare for all. And we got plenty more of your phone calls on the other side. Let's get to them. 844-967-2789. The happy hour starts right now.
I'm cognitively there.
That comment will come back to haunt me.
I think that at some point that's going to sort of just disappear, I hope.
That comment will come back to haunt me.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
That comment will come back to haunt me.
Get your words straight, Jack.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
5 9s, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
COVID meeting, Texas cleanup. I'm Ann Cates. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the U.S. is approaching 4.3 million, and the death toll has topped 147,000. Senate Republicans have released a $1 trillion COVID-19 relief package that slashes the $600 enhanced unemployment benefits, with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi calling all sides together. Correspondent Phil Mattingly is on Capitol Hill.
She wants all of the key negotiators on the Republican side to meet in her office to start those urgent negotiations. Well, the top White House negotiators, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, Mark Meadows, the White House Chief of Staff, they will indeed be in the Speaker's office tonight.
Parts of South Texas are waterlogged after Hurricane Hanna dumped up to 15 inches of rain. Correspondent Ed Lavandera reports on the damage left behind.
The storm brought heavy flooding, strong winds throughout the region, obviously putting a lot more pressure on hospital systems that have already been pushed to the brink because of the coronavirus pandemic. This comes at a time when, fortunately, the number of new coronavirus cases is starting to show signs of plateauing here in this state, but the death toll, it continues to rise.
President Trump aims to push price controls on American drug makers.
On Friday, the president signed executive orders allowing importation of drugs from nations which control prices and allowing Medicare to negotiate with makers. And he says that power comes from the Supreme Court ruling against him by keeping in place President Obama's executive order creating the so-called Dreamers program.
The DACA decision allowed me to do things that some people thought the president didn't have the right to do. Drug prices will be coming down very, very substantially.
Drug price controls and negotiations for Medicare were actually one of the original parts of the Obamacare legislation as proposed. However, drug companies insisted that be excluded in return for their support of the rest of the healthcare overhaul. Bob Costantini, Washington.
I'm Ann Cates.
Hi, I'm Tom Newhouse, the Piano Man, and I want to rebuild your darn piano at Newhouse Piano Workshop. I can turn Grandma's old piano into a beautiful family heirloom. Heck, I can even turn it into a modern player piano. So Google Pianos Milwaukee and click on newhousepianoworkshop.com to check out how I can rebuild your old piano and turn it into a beautiful family heirloom. Call or text me at 262-302-1965 to schedule an appointment with me, Tom Newhouse, the Piano Man.
Right? Well, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say you'd be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist then, Gary, by that logic?
No, I'm not saying he is, but I'm
But
saying
he
you gotta-
said he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your biblical logic, Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
2 Major League Baseball games scheduled for tonight have been called off because of the coronavirus.
The Miami Marlins home opener with Baltimore is postponed after more than a dozen Marlins players and coaches tested positive for COVID-19. Miami played the Phillies in Philadelphia over the weekend, prompting the league to postpone tonight's Phillies-Yankees matchup. Major League Baseball says the Marlins traveling party is self-quarantining in Philadelphia while they await results. The league now working with the Players Association on the best ways to move forward. I'm Clayton Neville.
We may not get a line-by-line literal translation of what his hit 1971 song American Pie is all about, but singer and writer Don McLean is promising to reveal more about that classic with an upcoming documentary due out at the end of next year. A stage musical based on McLean's music is in the works as well for 2022. McLean says he is also working on a children's book based on American Pie. I'm Ann Cates.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker for Busted Pencils Radio, educated educators talking education. Tuesday nights at 7, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee.
Hey folks, Alan Robinson here. I'd like to invite you to join me for my new show, Whiz Cannabis Radio, right here on Talk 1017 FM. Every Wednesday night at 6, I'll be talking with leaders in the cannabis community surrounding all things in Wisconsin and potential game changers at the federal level. Whiz Cannabis Radio is the only place to hear exclusive inside information from decision makers and elected officials, so be sure to tune in at 6 p.m. every Wednesday night so you can join the conversation. Whiz Cannabis Radio, right here on Talk 1017 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gosted with your headlines. The Dane County District Attorney Ismail Ozan says protesters were outside his home until 1 a.m. chanting expletives and calling him a racist. The Wisconsin State Journal reports the protest took place on Saturday and lasted for 6 hours. In a 2-page statement, Ozan condemned the protesters' use of what he calls intimidation tactics in an attempt to get him to drop charges against people arrested for crimes committed during the protests in Madison. Ozan responded to being called racist by pointing to his family history, as he was raised by a black mother who worked to register voters in the 1960s Mississippi, and that he understands intergenerational trauma. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock Burn It Down happy hour. Charlie Sykes says burn it down.
Conservative Charlie Sykes says burn it down.
Now, there's also something called the Restoration PAC running ads against Joe Biden. And they're especially damning because they're true. Joe Biden said a lot of lies about his resume way back in the 88 elective cycle. And Joe paid the price and dropped out of the race September of 87, I think it was. But now here he is again. Third time's the charm for Joe Biden. He is the presumptive Democratic nominee. And I don't think with the polling as it currently is, I don't think there's anything Joe Biden could theoretically do to lose this race. Not fair and square, not without some sort of, voting irregularities. But I got to tell you, it is quite troubling to me when I go home and I try to watch a ball game. The only 3 ball games I might see all year, only live sports I might see. And it's filled up with anti-Joe Biden ads. And they sting because they're true. And I got to tell you, I am clearly voting for Joe Biden, but it is discouraging to me. We had a better choice, a differing choice. And I know the voters chose differently. Some late endorsements, some persuasion from Barack Obama, the termination of the primaries. A lot of things fell in place against Bernie Sanders. But you never had to wonder, is he telling the truth? Is that to me is the basic standard of leadership. Yeah. Tell me the truth.
According to Senator Ron Johnson, Crudy, sometimes you don't deserve to know the truth. Some things are better left unsaid. And again, I do not equate the failings of Joe Biden to the failings of Donald Trump. From what I know and what I've experienced as a citizen of this country under President Donald Trump, he is a significantly flawed candidate. But we had someone text out, said, "What are we trying to accomplish here, boys?" Dave tweeted us out. And I guess my point...
Talking about what's on my mind today.
We're talking about politics. We're talking about these things. And if someone gives me a line of BS, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to call them out. And I'm going to be consistent in my criticism. And yes, what Joe Biden did back in 1988 confronting, or 87, confronting this guy and, talking himself up and making himself seem to be more than something that he was wrong. He got called out for it at the time. He's subsequently apologized to it. And as mentioned, he has other failings as well. No doubt. But I'm not going to not talk about it just because he's the guy I want to beat Donald Trump and become the president of the United States. Because you know what? When he becomes president of the United States, he's going to have all sorts of new powers. And I'm going to be very clear on what my expectations of Joe Biden as president will be. And for us to be consistent in our criticism and in our philosophy, at least for me, when you see it, it is what it is. He said it. Yeah, that sucks. Too bad. Shouldn't have done it. Get over it. Move on. No doubt. Perhaps don't do those things in the future. But how do we not discuss it? This ad is getting $2 million ad buy in the state of Wisconsin. And as Crudy mentioned, it is on all the time.
And it bothers me because it's true. If I knew it was patently false, I could dismiss the ad. I could move on. I could enjoy my beer, my baseball game, whatever the case may be. The fact that it is absolutely true, that's what freaking stings.
Yeah, but you're not going to not vote for the man because of some stupid things he said in 1987.
I didn't vote for him in the primary for some stupid things he said as recently as February of 2020.
And how about now?
Misconflations about his record.
And how about now? He's up against Donald Trump.
You know where I'm going to vote.
Where are you voting?
I'm voting. Here's the thought. They say the best day of your life is the day you buy a boat, and the second best day of your life is the day you sell that boat. Well, here's what I hope for. I hope November 3rd is the best day of Joe Biden's life. He wins the election, landslide, monumental,
huge,
burned it down. Republicans lose the Senate and the Dems take more seats in the House. That's the sort of victory I'm looking for. In the worst day of Joe Biden's life, I hope, is every day beyond the inauguration when he is held to a progressive line. Because if we're going to accept him as the president, I'm going to want more than a rejection of Medicare for all, and a rejection of legalized marijuana, and a rejection of the truth. I'm going to expect truth.
And you're going to call him out if you feel like you are not getting those things.
You're
well, and I guess Dave,
bet your ass I will, buddy, because I don't have the good sense to just shut up and get in line, blue no matter who. I don't care if he lies to us, cheats, steals, no matter what. We got our own blue cult. Join it.
No, see, I don't want to join a cult. I don't want to join the red cult. I don't want to join the blue cult.
It's America.
844-967-2789. Dick from Madison, you've been waiting longest. Let me ask you a quick picture question. Dick, when you send a selfie, is that always a dick pic?
I don't know how to answer that, but I can tell you this, guys. If you're into baseball and you like it, I suggest you watch and look for extra inning games because I think the season is going to be over by the weekend.
Nothing but Ken Burns from here forward.
Yeah. Moving on, though, I couldn't agree with you more about some of the things about Biden, but when it comes down to the bald-faced liar-in-chief or the embellisher-in-chief, I'm going to take the embellisher-in-chief. And here's the thing. Historically, even Roosevelt was nowhere near as progressive as he became. He was pushed that direction. I think he can have his hand forced. And especially at his age, why wouldn't he want to get in office and just do the right thing and go with the flow? And if he picks the right person as a running mate, hey, if Joe Biden does not pick Sarah Palin, I think he might have a chance.
Well, who's the right person, Dick?
I don't know. I love that gal from Florida who was a police chief and
Val Phillips.
Yes, I like Kamala Harris, but Harris, what does she bring to the equation? California is blue, and you know what I'm saying. Usually you pick somebody that can bring something else in vote-wise.
I hear Tim Kaine's still available, Dick.
Well, oh boy, there was a bad choice. Almost as bad as Sarah Palin.
Dick, I'm going to end on that note. Thank you for your call, sir. We're going to keep moving down the phones. 844-967-2789. Lots of zip codes to be heard from. Wisco Paul, you're next. What do you got for us?
Hello, Paul.
Hey, good afternoon, Dom, Crudy. Hey, luckily for Biden, he's running against a guy that just the other day went person, man, woman, TV, camera, and then he waited 20 minutes and repeated it in order, and now he's a genius. I bet you can't even do that. It's just amazing. I can't even believe I seen that on TV. Holy Christmas tree. Hey, anyway, yeah.
Well, and he's proud of it, Paul. I mean, that's I think the most stunning thing. Trump is sitting up there when he's saying this. He's thinking, you know what? I'm nailing this interview. You know what I mean? I am just crushing these lips on this. Look at me go. And he doesn't. I can't imagine. He doesn't realize what he looks like. Such an ass, Paul.
Here, let me see if I can remember this now. It's only been like 2 minutes. Person, man, woman, TV.
Like a memory question.
Camera. I got
like
it.
You'll go
hey,
person,
I got it.
woman,
I don't have all time.
man,
hey.
camera, TV.
You got it absolutely right, Paul.
You're qualified to be president of the United States, Paul. You got my vote, man.
You know what I heard the best part about that whole thing was?
What's that?
That means he's competent to stand trial.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for the call, Paul. 844-967-2789. Let's squeeze one more in this segment. We'll get to more of your calls and the next as well. Dale from Marshall, you're next. Happy days, Dale. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dale.
Well, Joe Biden, status quo Joe, is 1,000 times better than Trump.
Yes.
But here's the problem. He's the average politician from before Trump, and Trump proved we have a huge systemic problem. If we get somebody else with the despotic tendencies of Trump, but that's slightly smarter, and we haven't changed the system, we're screwed, because he will be able to rip this system apart, because Trump has proved that we do not have checks and balances. It's only Trump's incompetence that stopped him from turning this.
No, but Dale, I love your sentiment, man, but I got to tell you, it wasn't just Trump. It was also the Senate Republicans. They had an option. We had an option to get rid of this guy for just cause, Dale, and they declined to do it. We would not have this man if the Republicans would stand up. It's not just Trump. They are also complicit.
Dale, you're right, though.
Correct.
We need more guardrails, buddy.
Exactly. We cannot count on a two-party system when we've got the parties that are so much focused on simply maintaining power because the lobbyists are writing the bills and doing the jobs, and they're just focused on getting elected. So we cannot count right now on the way the system is, and we have to get people in there to change the system like Warren and Sanders.
Well, Dale, first you got to win because winners get to write the history, my friend.
All right. Thanks for the call, Dale. Great points.
Appreciate you listening in the Eastern Suburban Conference. Come back with us. Many other conferences, states heard from. 844-967-2789. It's the happy hour, and we're going to be very AC/DC centric this hour, man. They know how to party like the devil's advocates.
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
I used to use the word incompetent. Now I just call them stupid.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Walton, chair of the Milwaukee County Democratic Party. I'm here today to encourage you to sign up for an absentee ballot at myvote.wi.gov. An absentee ballot is the quickest, safest way we can encourage everyone to come out and vote in these upcoming elections. Make sure you sign your affidavit envelope and have a witness sign as well. The August 11th election is a partisan primary. You can only vote for one party. Go to myvote.wi.gov. This message is paid for by the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County.
MaxInc Radio, this is Rocker. Hey, Crudy. What? I know nothing about any of my operatives trying to steal your precious vaccine for the double dip. Jimmy, was that you?
Did Jimmy get his fingers on the vaccine? Will Rocker be able to refill the sanitizer without touching the sanitizer? Tune in to MaxInc Radio this Saturday and Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m.
Rocker, even a mask will protect you from double dipping.
Looking to support Black-owned businesses in the Milwaukee area? Download the MKE Black mobile app, now available on Android and iPhone devices. Find your new favorite Black-owned restaurants, boutiques, and more in the Milwaukee, Waukesha, and Racine areas. MKE Black also supports local Black businesses with events, grants, and marketing. To learn more, visit us at mkeblack.org. Once again, that's mkeblack.org.
Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez, I got to ask you, in what percentage did the fact that Real Resistance Radio, WRD 1510, the fact that you can come after bar with us on Brady Street, Tom, how much did that factor into the site selection of Milwaukee, sir?
There's that old saying, what's good for General Motors is good for America. What's good for Resistance Radio is good for Wisconsin and good for America. So it was huge.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. With better reception than your tinfoil hats, why listen to any other station? Talk 101.7 FM and WRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee's home for Wisconsin's political talk network.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open, 844-967-2789. Paying some homage to AC/DC, Back in Black. That great album dropped 40 years ago this weekend, if you can believe that.
This might be the greatest rock and roll tune of all time.
I think this is.
It's on my short list.
It is. This album is probably number one for me.
Dominic, as you well know, Joe Biden bringing the political party to Milwaukee in like 3 weeks, man. If they show, I've been assured they're having a party.
A party? Is it going to be a party or is it going to be not a party?
Well, here's a quick note before we get back to the phones. Again, that phone number, 844-96-PARTY.
It's true.
This one at the Journal Sentinel. Attendees will have to, talking about DNC, convention attendees, and our credentials as a station have gone from 6 down to 1.
Boo.
And you've mentioned perhaps Crudy should be the one that attends. Well, not when I read this stuff. Attendees will have to self-isolate for a minimum of 72 hours before departing for Milwaukee or on the first entry into the health and safety zone if they're already in the city. So what, you go inside the Wisconsin Center and you can't leave for 3 days?
No, I think you're supposed to self-isolate before you go into the Wisconsin Center.
Okay, fair enough. Everyone who attends the convention will have to agree to daily testing for COVID-19 through the Democratic National Convention Committee's designated testing system. Results will be shared with local health authorities and convention organizers. So another reason to make it onto Joe Biden's list.
A test every day, isolate for 72 hours.
I'm not going to isolate 72 hours to go to a convention that Joe Biden, when he does attend, which will be in very, very brief, will be in a separate building that I don't get access to, and I get to watch Joe Biden give a speech on TV, and I'm supposed to isolate for 72 hours so I can go cover Joe giving a speech on television? Sorry, I'm a hard no.
844-967-2789. What would it take to get you to yes?
Surrogates, real people at the convention, access to the candidate.
Oh, like we used to have, like how it used to be.
Like it was in 16.
In the good old days.
In the good old days. Pre-pandemic days.
844-96 party, Mud River. Lee, you are up. Happy days. Lee, what do you got for us?
Hey, Lee.
Hey, Lee. We lost Lee. Call us back. 844-967-2789.
Asleep at the switch, Lee.
Come on. PT from Milwaukee, you're up. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Paul.
I don't know what's going on. I'm going to call you back, okay?
All right. Call us back. 844-967-2789. Alan from Indiana. Does your phone work, man? Hey, welcome. What do you got?
Hey, Alan.
Hey, I think I'm here.
All right.
Hey,
there you are. Yep.
Speaking of rehabilitation of Republicans, you all remember Glenn Beck's little foray into that? Never Trump land?
I heard he went there, but I could barely stomach the guy before or after. I mean, I haven't watched Beck since he was a Fox News guy.
Was it brief,
Alan?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the whole funny part about it is like he tried to do it thinking he was going to get his reputation back. And he went on like the Samantha Bee show, like she did a whole thing with him. And then he ended up going on the only NPR show that's worth listening to anymore, On the Media. Everybody should look that show up. Great show. And Bob Garfield decimated him, just tore him apart. Everybody should listen to that interview because Garfield just said, like, why should we believe anything you say? And he ended up getting Glenn Beck to walk out. That's what we should do to all these Republicans. George Bush, a war criminal. We should not allow the Democratic Party to make these people normal. They're criminals. He should be in the Hague right now. We should be talking about letting him out of prison.
I know, but now he's like a warm, fuzzy, good Republican by comparison.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like the other guy said, we're going to have Tom Cotton if we don't reform the system. And Tom Cotton's smart compared to Trump. Well, smart-ish. And then talking about Biden, the one thing, the Anita Hill thing really bugs me because I think he called her the day before he announced he was going to run, and he didn't apologize to her. And she never got an apology for the way she was treated by him. And I mean, there's one thing, he's made stuff up all along, but he has no empathy is really the problem.
Hang on, Alan, you're talking about Joe Biden has no empathy?
Yes. That's why he talks the way he does to people. Like, he has no empathy. He cannot put himself in somebody else's position.
See, I think, Alan, you might be wrong on that note. Those that know Joe Biden best, they know his history. And he's known tragedy. I mean, that man's had some people very close to him die.
Right.
And I would say there is a specific empathy he demonstrates when he's dealing with people's tragedy. And I don't think Donald Trump can deal with tragedy. I don't think he ever loved anybody except himself. And certainly his mama didn't love him enough, didn't give him enough hugs. And I will just point out, I have insulted you many times, and you will never get an apology from me. Come back with us, Devil's Advocates Radio. Many of you on the phones, you might get insulted, never can tell.
You probably will if you talk to Crudy.
844-967-2789.
A very mean person. They like a person like me that's not mean.
Get your words straight, Jack.
Said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community, so Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone. Don't send in those absentee ballots just yet. Talk 1017 FM is broadcasting forums for you to hear all about candidates running to represent Milwaukee. Thursday, August 6th, meet the candidates running to represent Assembly District 17, previously held by Representative David Crowley. Tune in Friday, August 7th to hear from the candidates running for the 8th Assembly District, Representative Jocasta Zamaripa's previous seat. Both nights, the forums will be broadcasted from 7 to 8 p.m. exclusively on Talk 1017 FM, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's the Stephanie Miller Show from 8 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's the Earl Ingram Show. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. At 6, it's Busted Pencils, Whis Cannabis Radio, and Maggie Dawn. And at 7, it's Democracy Now! Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
Milwaukee, join me, Alan Robinson, Wednesday evenings for my new show, Whis Cannabis Radio. We're setting the record straight on cannabis in Wisconsin. Follow me at Wisco Cannabis and listen live Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. right here on Talk 1017 FM.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock. Say hello, somebody, and join Sanders' campaign co-chair, former state senator Nina Turner, on The Santita Jackson Show on 1017 FM.
From Sheboygan to Racine, WRRD 1510 AM is News Talk Radio built for the 99%. Rural Wisconsin's home for Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gustave with your headlines. This morning, the Madison Professional Police Officers Association issued a vote of no confidence in Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway. The MPPOA is the police union in Madison and says 95% of its members participated in the confidence vote. In 2019, the union endorsed Rhodes Conway for mayor. However, the union claims she has created an us versus them polarity. The statement from the MPPOA ended with a promise of its members' commitment to do a better job of fostering a positive relationship with the public. Highs today in the mid-80s with partly cloudy skies, overnight lows in the mid-60s. Tuesday, highs once again in the mid-80s with partly cloudy skies. Wednesday, highs in the low 80s with sunny skies. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Women want them. Men want to be them. Tom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Monday Happy Hour. It continues next week. Every day next week, Tom. We've got debates and contested races for both the Assembly and the Senate.
Elections coming up.
Madison and Milwaukee. And then the following Tuesday, 2 weeks from tomorrow, primary election day in the great state of Wisconsin.
Wow.
We will have extended coverage all across the state beginning about 8 o'clock. Didn't count you in on that. You'll be in the bar long before then, I suspect.
If the bars are open, I'll be there.
And then the DNC that Crudy is no way in hell am I quarantining for 3 days for the right to be in the adjacent building to Joe Biden to watch his speech on television. I'm telling you, if that is what is required.
No, don't worry. You also have to have a COVID test every day as well.
Well, that seems like a small concession to make. I would take the COVID test, but the 3 days of isolation, I'm a social creature. I mean, I'd have to skip, Friday's show. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'd have to be in isolation. The audience couldn't take that, huh?
I think we'd be all right.
No, I think they'd be trouble. You don't need me on that wall. 844. Not if it means staying home alone for 3 days. 844-967-2789. Although, if I could talk my wife into taking the dogs, I might be willing to make that sacrifice. Let's try PT again. How you doing, Paul? What do you got for us?
Hey, man.
Hey, guys. So what's going on here? So we've had, this is supposed to be the happy hour, right? And
yes.
Essentially, we've had 2 hours of Biden bashing.
Really?
So,
no, we talked sports.
Slow down,
we talked
fella.
sports for like the first hour. We didn't even get to Biden until like 4:30, man. Hey, pull the tape, Paul. Pull the tape, man. Don't be exaggerating, Joe. I mean,
by Crudy. And Crudy, when are you going to get over the fact that Biden beat Bernie?
Oh, I realize he beat
round?
Bernie. That doesn't make him a trustworthy candidate at this stage, Paul, because he demonstrates his inability to tell the truth.
You got to get over it, my friend. You have to get over it.
Blue, no matter who. I know, man. Trump's the option. I will vote for Joe Biden, but that doesn't mean I cannot be disappointed in the Democrats' choice. Doesn't mean I voted for him, Paul. Just like I didn't vote for Hillary in the primary, and she never asked for my endorsement, and I never gave it to her.
So, Cruz, this is the difference. You go to righty-whitey radio, and you will never hear a criticism of the candidate like we are on this radio station. Progressives are just fussy little bitches, aren't they? They can't, he's not my perfect candidate. He's not my perfect candidate. Blah, blah, blah.
All right, hang on, Paul. Let me ask you a question. Yeah. You know the ad of which we're speaking. You listen to the show. Do you take objection to the words that Joe Biden said when he confronted that man? What's your take?
Yeah, it was like, 30 years ago or what?
Yes. What's your take? What's your impression? How do you interpret that?
I'd say it happened a long time ago. And then the guy comes on your radio station and says Biden doesn't have any empathy.
I disagreed, Paul.
Right.
I defended
callers
Biden
are going to
case.
have their opinions. Okay, but let me ask you this one, Paul. It wasn't so recently ago he once again stated his inaccurate words that he was arrested, in South Africa, right? That wasn't
Nelson Mandela.
That wasn't 30 years ago. That was like several months ago. So what do you? What I just want to know. Now I'm not criticizing him. I'm asking you, Paul.
When's it got to turn off the lying, Paul? When's it a youthful indiscretion?
Why are progressives?
Oh, hang on. I'm not going to let you. No, we're not going to spin that, Paul. I want your opinion on that fact.
Which fact is that?
The fact that Joe Biden
still misleading on his resume as recently as February of 2020, right before South Carolina.
Okay, there you go, Paul. What's your take on that?
I'd say forget it and move on.
Is that your answer for everything then, Paul? Any criticism, any issue that anybody has with Joe Biden or candidate that might be better than their opponent, but do you think there should be no criticism? We should be like the right and just put them up on a pedestal, Paul, and play that cult game?
I don't think you should spend 2 hours bashing him.
Well, then I won't keep talking to you, Paul, because I make the choices around here what we're going to talk about. And if I don't, Dom does. Hey, let's remind people. Once upon a time, there were lots of Trump haters in righty-whitey talk radio here in the state of Wisconsin. Jerry Bader was a never-Trumper. Mark Belling was a never-Trumper. Charlie Sykes, something of a never-Trumper. Vicky McKenna, a never-Trumper. Hell, I don't think Dan O'Donnell was on the Trump train initially either, although I wasn't as clear if he had a show back then. But the entire Republican Party hated Trump's ass. I mean, your girl, Leah Vukmir, Nurse Ratched, talked about holding her nose and voting for Trump because he just might be the nominee.
And then he gave her a big old kiss up north in Wisconsin.
In Mosinee, yeah. So, maybe you don't want the truth, Paul, because our candidate is also flawed. But certainly he is not flawed to the same degree that Donald Trump is.
Well, every candidate is going to be flawed, right?
For Joe Biden, yeah. I would think, yes, every candidate is flawed. I think many are flawed in different ways. And truthfulness, integrity is a big deal to me. It always has been. I mean, I've apologized many times for misspeaking on air, saying something inaccurately. I've always tried to go back and correct the record. As have you. Not that you've ever misspoken.
Well, of course.
But we've tried to hold
I would, yes.
the other one accountable. And when I tell stories on myself all the way back to college, there's a pretty damn good chance you were there in the room with or without clothes. So all I would say is this. If I didn't have to watch the very damning ads of Joe Biden, which happened, according to Glenn Kessler, the Washington Post fact checker, says absolutely true. I didn't put it on the front page of the Washington Post, Paul. I didn't put it on the television. There's lots of Trump bashing that we do. I would say probably up to and exceeding 2 hours a day on the show. But our guy's not beyond reproach. And, quite frankly, they haven't even had the convention yet until the man shows up and I get done with 3 days of quarantine. He ain't the nominee.
And thank you for the call, Paul. We do appreciate everyone's input on this. But
even me, the whiny bitch progressive Bernie supporter,
am not a member of the cult, man. And when something is obvious, it is our obligation to look at it, address it, and discuss it. And here's an idea, and come up with a response, a rebuttal, something to say back to your Trump-supporting uncle, Paul. Hey, I've been seeing this ad all the time. What about this? Are you prepared to talk about that with people, Paul? Or just going to tell people,
like you never saw it.
Or just tell people to forget it? Because that's not an answer. That's no way to have a discussion. Just forget about it.
Get over it.
Get over it. He said it 30 years ago. He said it 30 days ago. Just get over it. Well, it is part of the discussion, and I've qualified it many times. I'll do it again. This is not an apples and apples comparison between these candidates. But how do we not address it? Get over it is not something I'm inclined to do. What that seems to me is very cultish. Don't say anything bad about the leader. Well, what? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. We're all human beings. And I have an expectation for Crudy and for Brian, for myself, and for the people I vote for and anyone around me. We have expectations, and we want them to be met. And if they are not met, well, we have every right to gently criticize. And to say 2 hours, man, come on. We started this conversation exactly at 4:33 when we came back from commercial. Now, no, it may seem that way because you're hearing things that you don't want to hear about a guy you're going to vote for. Well, let me tell you something. I'm hearing things that I'm talking about things that I don't want to talk about a guy I'm going to vote for. Because I'm going to vote for a flawed candidate, but I'm going to vote for the better candidate of the two, and I'm okay with that. I can reconcile that, and I can have these discussions for when the Trumpsters come up and start doing their bitching and moaning, Paul. I mean, I'm down with that. This is what we do. You have to discuss these things. Come up with a response other than just forget about it, because that's a little too cultish for me.
Sound like a snowflake now. 844-967.
So sensitive progressives.
I know. Let's get to a few more of them, like L.A. Tom. Welcome back, Tom. What do you got for us?
Hey, Tom.
Hey, guys. First off, we the people are the government.
Yes, sir.
Second, I think people, the reason why they get very sensitive is because we're living in basically doomsday scenario here. We're not living where, it's just like Bill Clinton taking over or someone like this taking over. But people are scared. And I think that it says a lot for you guys, actually. Paul thinks that you guys have a much pull out there. So I guess he's saying, quite a bit in terms of his confidence in you. And I get it. I think what we need to say, instead of demonizing the person for lying or whatever, because we have a guy that lies so often that you can't even compare the two.
No doubt.
But we need to keep on saying that we need to not allow for the right wing to demonize. No, I mean demonize Joe Biden. I mean demonize in terms of people being turned off to vote for him. The bottom line is we don't have a ranked choice voting system in this country. We have a winner takes all system. And as long as we have that winner take all system, you are going to have to pick the less of the two evils, because of the fact that there's no one else that's there. The winner takes it all. And I would just ask everyone to join me and move to amend.org, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, or represent.us, and get money completely out of politics. Because that's the thing that is going to be the death nail to this country, with Citizens United, Buckley versus Vallejo, and First National Bank versus Bellotti. Those are the three cases that have destroyed this country, made corporations people, made money speech, and that is at the culprit of all of this.
Okay, Tom, I know you were a Bernie guy like I'm a Bernie guy, and we both know at this late hour it's Joe Biden all the way. But if you've seen this ad, and maybe you haven't seen it in California, but if you listened to us an hour ago and you heard us talking about this circumstance, do you have any qualms? Do you have any second thoughts supporting Joe Biden when you know the guy was out there lying about his resume, as so many people do? But I've never understood the need to overinflate one's resume. I mean, the guy was a U.S. senator running for president at that point. It wasn't like he was 5 minutes out of college trying to get a job interview.
Point for me, they're all liars except for Bernie. And that includes everyone in the House, and maybe not AOC, but every one of them are basically playing to the tune of their donors, whoever it is.
Well,
but I
I guess to your point, Tom, compromised more than anything.
Well, I hope we don't compromise the hell out of our values, because the thing I do believe is that, we're not in love with Joe Biden. And because we're not in love with Joe Biden, it's going to be a lot easier to push him, not demonize him, on actual policy. Like, I agree with the fact that the delegates are saying, look, Medicare for all goes on the platform. If it doesn't, we're going to be up in arms. I think that's a fair point, because they're talking about policy. They're not talking about the person. And I think when we start getting into personalities and all this kind of stuff, I'm going to recommend everyone go to selectacandidatequiz.com, selectacandidatequiz.com.
Oh, Tom, if people haven't figured out the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump at this late hour, God help us all.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate your call, fella. We got one last segment today and plenty of phone lines to get to. 844-967-2789. If you want a part of this big show, you better start dialing right now. More Devils. The happy hour, it continues.
The one thing we know, and they do say, anybody that runs against Trump suffers.
Get over it.
No, I'm not going to join a cult.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
You're wrong.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Hey, Farmer Bill here. You know aronia berries are really good for you. They have an intense, tangy flavor that will make your smoothies and cereal come alive. You can find fresh, frozen, and aronia juice concentrate in Madison at Medcalf's, Willie Street Co-op, and Woodman's, and in Milwaukee at Outpost stores. Or you can find us at our website, organicaronia.com, where you can even order bushes for some beautiful edible landscaping. Support your body with Bellbrook Berry Farm's locally, organically grown aronia berries, and thanks from our crew.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin on historic Brady Street. The Roman Coin was originally a Pabst Tight House built by Frederick Pabst in 1890 to sell Pabst beer. It was even designed by the same architect who designed the Pabst Theater. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's historic, pet-friendly, cash-only, order-in classic corner tavern.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
Their age?
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Eric Holder, he's the former U.S. Attorney General and current chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.
The notion that Scott Walker is saying that we are doing something to push partisan gerrymandering, that is the pot calling the kettle total black. I mean, that's absurd. He is one of the architects of among the most gerrymandered states in the union. All we're pushing for is a fair process come 2021.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Kofefi, hamburgers, smocking gun. Tired of trying to decode the tweeter-in-chief? Make sure you follow the greatest radio station ever, Talk 1017 FM.
Wreaking havoc on America, just like they wreaked havoc on Wisconsin. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, stick around. The phones, they're jammed. We're going to get to them right now at 844-967-2789.
I believe Kurt from Madison has been the most patient. Kurt, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Kurt.
I listened to your Friday show today, and I just want to say that there's a lot of things Joe said that I absolutely am in total lockstep with him. If we look at what's going on now, we can tie back to a lot of Hillary mistakes, not really what she said. I'm talking about the handlers, the people that surround Joe, guide him, things up, tell him what to say, not to say.
Kurt, I love your thought, man, but I'm only hearing about every other word, and I don't want to make the audience suffer. We're going to keep moving. Try us again tomorrow, pal. 844-967-2789. Iris from Oak Creek, you're next. Welcome, Iris.
Hi, thanks. He sure got a lot of money. They sure got a lot of good out of that ad they did. I mean, a lot of mileage out of it.
I'm sorry, Iris.
Oh,
I didn't understand your point.
That ad, they only spent so much to make it, yet all the talking about it makes it worth so much more.
Well, they spent $2 million in the state of Wisconsin to distribute that ad.
It's playing constantly where I live, Iris.
I'm saying us talking about it has succeeded in spreading it so they don't even have to do another ad. They can just put it out there and let people feed on it.
And what do you,
Anyway,
what's your take? What do you think about it, Iris?
Oh, in fact, I wasn't calling to say about that because then I'd be contributing to that. There's nothing wrong. I think character does matter, and I do think telling the truth matters. And he was, not that it excuses it, just insecurity, it sounds like.
I think you're right, yeah.
So, I mean, what do they say? It is what it is, whatever. But that all does matter, and comparing it to Trump's, that's just insane.
Yeah, I know what you almost said, Iris. We appreciate your call, but now you're making me nervous. 844-967-2789. Pizza the Box. Welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Mike.
And if she had said it, I would have got to hear it because I'm on hold, man. You get to hear what the person says. Doesn't get blocked off that in case you never
Hey,
hear
don't
that.
give anyone
Cool.
any bright ideas, Pizza Box. What's your thought,
man,
fella?
Ed Schultz, well, you know what my thoughts are? What's everybody worried about, man? We're all doomed. Just enjoy it. Come on, baseball
We're all going to
started.
die.
First. Then a bunch of fish in Miami get sick, and they might end the season again. Well, who could have seen that coming? I'm amazed at the stupidity of this country. I really am, because as a good friend pointed it out, I said I used to think, like 50% of the population was really not very smart, but I think it's substantially higher. And he said 50% of the people are dumber than the average person.
Dominic literally just used that very same analogy with me during the commercial break, Pizza Box. He said, think about, like the average guy's IQ and just realize half of America's dumber than that guy.
Dude, don't ever call me average again, all right? At this point, I'm definitely above average. I got 4 grandkids that are teaching me, so things are pretty cool.
Oh, Pizza
I would
Box.
advise everybody should just, like I said, stock up on that THC, man. We're in for a ride. You thought this was going to get better first? You're wrong.
Oh, it's going to get worse before it gets better, Mike. Thanks for the call, man. 844-967-2789. Crudy, who we got next?
Sam from Watertown. Sam, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Sam.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, Sam.
So I got to tell you 3 things. First one, with empathy, and Joe Biden. Don't try to understand how he reacts to situations based on what's happened in his past, because we all react differently. You might think that having him lost his, family members, he might react a certain way, and you really don't know that.
Well, that has only been described to me through the reporting of others. I've seen Joe Biden. I've been maybe 10 feet away from Joe Biden. I've seen him interact with union people, but I've never had the opportunity to interview or self-assess Joe Biden. So I got to go on the reporting of others. But that's what has been suggested about Joe Biden, is that the tragedy in his life has made him incomparably empathetic. Certainly when compared with Trump.
Right. And that's the thing, is that, but you just honestly don't know that he may be holding certain emotions in, right near his heart and not showing certain emotions, or he may be saying certain things that other people don't understand. And that's a very difficult situation to be in. But, second point, screw Charlie Sykes. He's the reason we have Donald Trump in the White House. He is, I still remember all of the posts and all of his shows where he may have been a never Trumper, but he's exactly the reason we have Donald Trump in office.
Well, Sam, if we can't blame Trump on Charlie Sykes, we could certainly blame Scott Walker on him. 844-967-2789. Our pal Maggie Dawn. Is it Thursday night or Friday night? What do you call it our show?
Hey, Maggie.
We must got you stirred up a bit, sister. What do you got for us?
Well, you know what I'm going to talk about, of course.
Yeah, bring the scolding. I've been waiting for it.
Yeah, listen, we have to get beyond the idea that, all lies are equally bad. They're not. All exaggerations aren't equally bad. All character flaws aren't equally bad.
And I didn't hear from Paul a criticism of criticizing Biden. Absolutely. I heard from Paul a criticism about the degree to which we critique or attack Joe Biden. Because if you think about Joe's exaggeration or his lies, the values that he's expressing, even when he fails in expressing them appropriately, show me values that most of the time I'm pretty supportive of. Now, we can argue about degree, but these aren't all lies are equally bad. We got to.
Maggie, did you graduate at the top of your class? And if you did not, would you lie about it?
I did graduate at the top of my class.
See,
so
no need to lie. Appreciate your call. I knew she was the smartest girl in class. Maggie Dawn, listen for her at Thursdays and Fridays. Dawn of the Resistance, Devil's Advocates. We'll do it again live for you on Tuesday. Thank you all for playing along.
This is the last time this year, so let me hear you. Good and loud. All right, Gary. On one. On two. On three.
I'm cognitively there.
Just a bit outside.
That's amazing. How did you...
Are you concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community, so Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.